Chapter 1876, Chapter 1876, Chapter 1876, Killing. Chapter 1876, Chapter 1876 Killing Young Master Wuchen. It's all because of Lu Ming. He's too audacious. Otherwise, we would have taken down Huang Ling, Long Chen, and the rest. Mo Lang said respectfully. Oh, I've heard of that Lu Ming. He stirred up a storm in Ancient Moon's sanctuary a while ago. Unfortunately, the Wind Clan had not yet emerged at that time. Otherwise, we would have suppressed him long ago. Feng Wuchen sneered and said, Young Master Wuchen, we've also mentioned your name, but Lu Ming didn't give us any face at all. He even said that if you're not convinced, you can look for him directly. The Golden Crow's second prince chimed in. Arrogant and ignorant, you're really looking for death. Beside Feng Wuchen, another green-robed young man said coldly. This man was also a heaven's favorite of the Wind Clan, but he was not as strong as Feng Wuchen. You're asking me to find him? Hee, alright, I'll go find him then. From now on, those people don't need to stay in the Yuan Mountain Sacred Academy anymore. Feng Wuchen said indifferently. With his hands behind his back, he took a step forward and walked out. The other geniuses of the Wind Race, as well as Ink Wolf and the Golden Crow's second prince, followed him. On the mountain peak where Lu Ming and the rest lived, there was an open space. Two figures were fighting fiercely, erupting terrifying fluctuations. These two were Long Chen and Desolate. After 2 months of cultivation, Long Chen's cultivation had finally entered the Great Saint Perfection. The moment he entered the Great Saint Perfection, Desolate power found him. The two of them had nothing to say and immediately engaged in an intense battle. The battle between the two was very similar. It was direct, brutal, and overbearing. It was like two ancient beasts fighting. The trumpeting of elephants could be heard. Long Chen's arms expanded several times as he circulated his nomological laws to the extreme. He punched out continuously with both fists. With every punch, a giant elephant rose into the air and crushed toward Desolate Li. Desolate Li's muscles bulged as a wild light shone in his eyes. He roared and continued to punch out. Each punch would destroy a giant elephant. The two of them exchanged hundreds of moves before they retreated to the sides. They stared at each other like two wild beasts. Ah, awesome, this is awesome. How about we fight another day? Desolate Li suddenly laughed. That's exactly what one want. Let's have a great battle another day. Long Chen's fighting spirit was not weak at all. They looked at each other, feeling a sense of appreciation for each other, and a sense of regret that they had not met each other. And NBSP, the two of them controlled the same laws and fought each other. This would greatly benefit each other and allow them to find their own weaknesses. Although he could also condense a figure with the same laws as himself after entering the Purgatory Valley, it was condensed by a grand array after all. There was still a huge gap between it and a true genius or a real person. Real people had thoughts and could understand. They could see through weaknesses and fight against each other. The effect would naturally be better. The two of them stopped fighting and sat down cross-legged to absorb the Ori rocks to recover their true yuan. Not long after, the two of them opened their eyes at the same time and looked in the same direction. In that direction, a terrifying tornado with destructive power swept toward the mountain they lived on. Who is it? Block it! Long Chen and Desolate Li roared at the same time. Their bodies shot into the sky, and they charged towards the tornado. Their fists continued to strike out, and terrifying fist forces were sent towards the tornado. After dozens of punches, the tornado was finally stopped. The expressions of the two of them turned gloomy. The other party was too audacious, directly attacking them in their residence, wanting to destroy the courtyard they were staying in. This was a direct slap to their faces, a humiliation. In the distance, a young man in a green robe was walking in the air with his hands behind his back. He was Feng Wuchen. Too extreme king physique, this is really rare. Feng Wuchen looked at Long Chen and Desolate Li in shock. Feng Wuchen, Long Chen said with a serious expression. This guy is Feng Wuchen. He's so pretentious. I'll beat him until he cries later. Desolate Li grinned, his eyes filled with ferocity. At that moment, on the mountain peak, Other figures rose into the air and came behind Huang Li and Long Chen. A few of them were the elites of the Desolate race, while the others were elites of the Phoenix Palace, Divine Elephant Sect, and Thunder God Sect. At the same time, the other heavens favorites of the Wind race, Ink Wolf, the second prince of the Golden Crow, and the others also arrived and stood behind Feng Wuchen. The two sides drew their swords and their powerful auras met in the air. The fluctuations here naturally alerted the paragons of the other peaks. One by one, they stood in the void and watched from afar. It's Feng Wuchen. Feng Wuchen has come out. I knew it. Once Feng Wuchen comes out, he will definitely make a move. He won't let Long Chen and the others go easily. I wonder how they will deal with Feng Wuchen. It seems like there's going to be another intense battle. Many people spoke up, filled with anticipation. Previously, Lu Ming had killed the Golden Crow Crown Prince. How would Feng Wuchen treat Lu Ming and the rest? Feng Wuchen smiled faintly and said, "The two of you are rare talents. Come to me and work for me. I will make you my right and left arms. One will not treat you badly." He still wanted to subdue Desolate Power and Long Chen. If he had the help of the two king physiques, he would definitely be able to have a place in the Yuan Mountain Sacred Academy. Help you? Take a piss and look at yourself. Who do you think you are? Desolate Li immediately cursed. He only knows how to suppress us with his cultivation level. He even wants us to join him. What a joke. Long Chen also sneered. They were all king physiques, so how could they rely on Feng Wuchen? Did Feng Wuchen have the right? Feng Wuchen's cultivation was only slightly higher now. Once they had a breakthrough, their cultivation would catch up to Feng Wuchen's and they would have no fear of him at all. Stubborn. Then I'd like to see what capital you have to clamor in front of me. Feng Wuchen's face darkened. He took a step forward and a gust of wind howled between heaven and earth. Endless destructive wind appeared out of thin air and wreaked havoc in the world. Each gust of wind was like a terrifying destructive divine weapon. It cut through the space, leaving a hideous mark in the space. Feng Wuchen was also a king body. He controlled the laws of the wind of destruction and was a lower-tier absolute saint. Although his cultivation level was the same as the Golden Crow Crown Prince, his battle power was much stronger. Long Chen and Huang Li's eyes turned serious. The saint energy in their bodies circulated crazily, and they used their full strength to unleash their laws. They were like two wild beasts that were lying dormant, ready to unleash a shocking attack at any moment. Exterminate! At this moment, Feng Wuchen pressed down with a single hand, and a terrifying destructive wind swept toward Long Chen and Desolate. Boom! Boom! Long Chen and Desolate Li attacked at the same time. They punched continuously, causing the sky to shake. The air was completely compressed together, forming a terrifying force that shot towards the destructive wind. Explosions continued to occur in the sky. Long Chen and Desolate Li's bodies trembled as they were forced back. You can block one of my attacks. Not bad. Continue. Feng Wuchen's body was wrapped in the wind as he continued to walk. With every step, the wind became more violent and swept through the sky. The clouds in the sky had long been swept away by the wind. Two terrifying tornadoes flew towards Desolate Li and Long Chen. Chapter 1877, Chapter 1877, Chapter 1877, Intense Confrontation. Chapter 1877, Chapter 1877 Intense Confrontation, Extreme God Statue Fist. An elephant's cry resounded through the sky. Dragon Star's saint power was boiling. He punched out, and a huge Archean dragon-esque elephant appeared. It roared at the sky and rushed forward. Extreme Star Fist. Desolate Li punched out as well. A star appeared on his fist, as if he was pushing the star towards the tornado. The two's fist force was filled with boundless power. They used their power to break through all techniques in the heavens. The giant elephant and the star collided with the two tornadoes, causing a deafening boom. In the end, the two tornadoes were blocked and dissipated in the sky. Feng Wuchen's face turned gloomy after two of his moves were blocked. He was in the absolute saint realm. It would be embarrassing if he could not take down two great saints so easily. Storm Blade of Destruction, die! Feng Wuchen shouted. Countless blades appeared around him. They were extremely sharp and had destructive power. Whoosh, whoosh, whoosh. Destructive storm blades shot towards Long Chen and Desolate Li. Long Chen and Desolate tried their best to resist, but their cultivation was too weak. They were in a precarious situation. Then, leave these people to us. The paragons of the wind race had their eyes on Phoenix Palace. The other members of the Divine Elephant sect stepped toward them. Mo Lang, the second prince of the Golden Crow, and the others followed and launched a terrifying attack. Send out the news, gather our men, and then defend with all our strength. One of the Phoenix Palace's paragons shouted, and everyone sent out the news through voice transmission jade talismans one after another. Then, they went into a defensive stance. Some of them were still cultivating in some places in the Sacred Institute. They were few in number and could only defend. A few youths from the Desolate race took a step forward and stood at the front of the crowd. They swung their huge battle axes and maces, sending a few elites flying. They're so strong. How many of them have upper-class heavenly spiritual bodies? These people are burly and different from ordinary people. What are their origins? Mo Lang exchanged a blow with a Desolate race youth, and his body was sent flying. His body was numb, and there was a sharp pain in his arm, as if his bones had almost been shattered. It might be one of the ancient race, the Desolate race. A genius of the wind race said. As an ancient race, they naturally knew of the Desolate race. Ancient race. Mo Lang and the others took a deep breath. The ancient race had been passed down since ancient times. They had terrifying secret techniques and their foundations were unfathomable. No ancient race could be underestimated. Leave these few Desolate race members to us. You guys deal with the rest. The wind race's paragon said. A terrifying wind surrounded his body as he charged towards the Desolate race youth. Mo Lang and the others attacked the others. Although killing wasn't allowed in the Yuan Mountain Sacred Academy, it was fine as long as they weren't crippled or killed. They were going to beat the stubborn people of Phoenix Palace and Divine Elephant sect half to death and then throw them out of the Yuan Mountain Sacred Academy. The Desolate race, Phoenix Palace, Divine Elephant sect, Thunder God sect, and other sects had fewer people. They were at a complete disadvantage with some already injured. As for Long Chen and Desolate Li, they were not in a good state either. They were also at a disadvantage and were forced to retreat. If not for the fact that both of them cultivated extreme laws and their spiritual bodies were also known for their strength, which meant that their defenses were also extremely strong, they would have already been defeated. But even so, it couldn't hold on for too long. Seeing that they were in a precarious situation, a figure flew over from the distance. Before he even arrived, a cold and hot aura burst out. The two curved blades rotated at an extreme speed, forming a terrible destructive force that pressed toward Feng Wuchen. Qiu Yu had arrived. The law of yin and yang. Feng Wuchen's eyes narrowed. He waved his hand and a destructive storm blade slashed towards Qiu Yu. It collided with Qiu Yu's two curved blades and sparks flew. Kill! Kill! Long Chen and Desolate Li took this opportunity to attack. They broke through dozens of storm blades, and their fists flew toward Feng Wuchen like rainbows. If you want to counterattack, you're still far from it. Feng Wuchen shouted coldly. He opened his mouth and blew out a gust of wind that shattered Long Chen's and Desolate's fists. Qiu Yu, Long Chen, and Huang Li joined forces to fight Feng Wuchen. The king physique of three great saints in the exceptional realm is really amazing. However, even if the three of them join forces, they might not be able to fight Feng Wuchen. That's right. If there was one more person, I'm afraid we could fight. One wonder if Huang Ling has broken through to the great saint perfection. The crowd in the distance discussed animatedly. Buzz. And NBSP whoosh. And at that moment, there were figures flying over from the distance. They were people from Phoenix Palace, Divine Elephant sect, and the Desolate race who were cultivating elsewhere. They had received the voice transmission and rushed over. Take 2 hammer strikes from your grandfather. Huang Di waved his 2 giant hammers and rushed over from the distance. The 2 giant hammers were like a whirlwind as they smashed toward the second Golden Crow Prince. The shocking pressure from the hammer made the second prince of the Golden Crow turn pale with fright. Summoning the divine sunfire, he resisted with all his might. And NBSP, but when the hammer fell, the Golden Crow's second prince screamed as his wings exploded. His body was sent flying and he was severely injured. Although the second prince of the Golden Crow was also in the great circle of the Supreme Saint realm, his spiritual body was only a medium-grade heaven spiritual body. He was no match for the desolate land and was severely injured in one move. With the desolate race, Phoenix Palace, and the other sect elites rushing back, they finally stabilized the situation. However, they were still at a disadvantage. After all, the other party had the paragons of the wind race. In addition, there were the paragons of the Skywolf Tower, One Family, Golden Crow Clan, and so on. There were at least a dozen sects from the ancient Moon Holy Land who had joined the wind race. With so many paragons gathered together, there were simply too many people. The desolate race, Phoenix Palace, and other sects could only defend and could not launch a counterattack. And as time passed, more and more people were injured. At this moment, the cry of a phoenix resounded through the sky. A flaming phoenix flew over at top speed and enveloped the Sky Wolf Tower, the Golden Crow race, and a large number of heaven's favorites. "It's the unperishable flame!" someone exclaimed. Bang, bang. The flaming phoenix screeched and the law of the undying fire was activated. One by one, the young geniuses were sent flying and spat out large mouthfuls of blood. Some of the weaker ones were directly injured and no longer had the strength to fight. "It's Huang Ling, damn it. She has also broken through to the great saint perfection," Mo Lang roared. In the next moment, an undying flame shot towards Mo Lang, sending him flying and spitting out blood. Huang Ling had broken through to the great saint perfection. She was almost invincible among those of the same level. Even though the wind race had a few heaven's favorites with upper-class heavenly spiritual bodies, they were no match for her. They were suppressed by the Phoenix Spirit and were injured by the Phoenix Spirit, greatly reducing their combat strength. With the addition of Huang Ling, they immediately stabilized the situation and gained the upper hand. "Feng Ling, go and help Long Chen and the others. We can hold them off here," Mu Qingxue called out. Huang Ling had injured a few of the enemy's strongest elites, and the enemy's combat strength was greatly reduced. As for them, they had the cooperation of the desolate race's experts, so they had no problem protecting themselves. "All right, be careful, let's go," Huang Ling said. The phoenix formed by the unperishable flame let out a cry and rushed toward Feng Wuchen. Chapter 1870, Chapter 1878, The Battle of the Five Kings. Chapter 1878, The Battle of the Five Kings. Huang Ling had the undying celestial phoenix body and she controlled the law of the undying fire. Her life force was extremely strong. She almost turned into the undying fire and rushed toward Feng Wuchen. She was not afraid of the wind of destruction and blocked it. Qiu Yu, Long Chen, and Desolate Li seized the opportunity to attack. In an instant, Feng Wuchen was forced back a few thousand meters. "Don't think that you'll be useful just because you have more people," Feng Wuchen bellowed as his entire body turned transparent, as if he was about to transform into a gust of wind. The wind between heaven and earth was getting stronger and stronger. Tornadoes formed around Feng Wuchen, and there were also storm blades. The destructive attack swept toward Long Chen and the others. "They'll block it, you guys attack. Undying cage. Die," Huang Ling shouted. Endless flames spread out and turned into a huge flame cage, blocking the destructive storm. Long Chen and Huang Li stepped forward and appeared beside Feng Ling to protect her. At the same time, they attacked Feng Wuchen. As for Qiu Yu, she stood behind Feng Ling and the others. She did not care about her own defense and attacked with all her might. Qiu Yu attacked with all her might. Her attacks were terrifying. With the help of the laws of yin and yang, her two curved blades were extremely destructive. She kept attacking Feng Wuchen. The heavens and earth seemed to be on the verge of exploding. The others had to stay far away from their battlefield. The Battle of the Five Kings. 4 great Saint King physiques were fighting against a king physique of initial absolute saint. This was a rare sight. At this moment, More and more people were watching the battle from afar. Even many powerful Heaven's favorites who had been in seclusion appeared. Among them, there was a group of people in snow-white robes. They were very eye-catching, especially one of the most beautiful women. She was so beautiful that people kept looking at her. If Lu Ming was here, he would be shocked because the woman was Xian Yanjuan. It's the ancient Saint clan. Who is that woman? It's so beautiful. One heard that he's a terrifying genius from the ancient Saint clan. He's extremely powerful. Many people looked at Xian Yanjuan and his group and discussed among themselves. But very quickly, everyone's attention was focused on the battle ahead. For great Saint King physiques in the Great Circle are really amazing. If they all break through to the absolute Saint realm, I'm afraid they will stir up a storm in the Yuan Mountain Saint Academy. This is strange. King physique has always been arrogant and solitary. Why are these 4 king physique gathered together to fight Feng Wuchen? It seems to be because of a person called Lu Ming. Lu Ming, you guys have been in seclusion all this time, so you don't know this. This Lu Ming just joined the Yuan Mountain Sacred Academy not long ago, and he's a son of chaos. What? The son of chaos? Some people exclaimed in surprise. They didn't expect that another son of chaos would appear in the Yuan Mountain Sacred Academy. It was no wonder that so many king physiques were gathered together. If it was because of the son of chaos, then it was not surprising. Lu Ming. Xian Yanjuan murmured as a strange light flickered in her eyes. At this moment, Long Chen and the other 3 had teamed up to fight Feng Wuchen and finally turn the tables. However, Feng Wuchen was an absolute saint after all. His cultivation was much higher than theirs, so it was almost impossible for them to win. However, with the 4 of them working together, it would be difficult for Feng Wuchen to win. The battle was very intense, but it was difficult to determine the winner. Hee, it's really intense. At this time, a cold and grave laughter sounded out, and 2 young men came over together. With a shake of the spear, rays of spear radiance shot out, destroying Huang Li's fist force and forcing him to retreat. On the other side, Qiu Yu seized the opportunity to launch an attack on Luo Pokong. However, Luo Pokong's cultivation base was too strong. With a sweep of his spear, he broke Qiu Yu's attack. Desolate Li seized the opportunity and rushed to Qiu Yu's side. He joined forces with Qiu Yu and fought Luo Pokong. However, Luo Pokong also had a king body, and his cultivation was in the absolute saint realm. Although he had just broken through to the absolute saint realm not long ago, and his battle strength was slightly weaker than Feng Wuchen's, the difference was not big. Even if Desolate Li and Qiu Yu joined forces, they were no match for him. On the other side, Feng Ling and Long Chen were also at a disadvantage. Because of Luo Pokong's interference, the situation in this battle had taken a huge turn. Feng Ling, Long Chen, and the others are in trouble this time. They're no match for 2 king bodies in the absolute saint realm. That's right. I'm afraid he'll be heavily injured and thrown out of the Yuan Mountain Sacred Academy. He'll lose all his face. Some people sighed. With Luo Pokong's interference, Huang Ling and the others no longer had a chance. Moreover, Kong Lang, who came with Luo Pokong, would he interfere? Chapter 1879, Chapter 1879, Fighting Luo Pokong Again. Chapter 1879, Fighting Luo Pokong Again. In the Divine Ability, Purgatory Valley, Lu Ming had finally broken through the shackles after a period of cultivation. He had broken through Aro the Great Saint Perfection, and his aura had skyrocketed. Around him, pieces of raw gemstones exploded and turned into rolling original chi, which surged into Lu Ming's body and turned into saint energy. There were 2 saint hearts in Lu Ming's body. Now that he had reached the perfected supreme saint realm, his saint power was extremely strong. After an unknown period of time, Lu Ming's aura was restrained. I've gained a lot from this cultivation. I've made a breakthrough in my cultivation and reached the Great Sage Perfection. I've also mastered 80% of the Primal Chaos Tribulation Finger. It's time to go out. Lu Ming pondered in his heart. Last time, he had killed the Golden Crow Crown Prince. If the Wind Race came out of seclusion, he didn't know if they would take revenge. Although killing was forbidden in the Yuan Mountain Sacred Academy, As long as one didn't step onto the life and death battle stage, they would be fine. However, Lu Ming was still worried. Lu Ming strode towards the exit of the Purgatory Valley. He was very fast and there were no obstacles. In a short while, Lu Ming had left the divine ability, Purgatory Valley. It seems like Bubbles is still cultivating. Lu Ming smiled faintly, then his expression changed. The moment he came out, he seemed to have received a message from a jade talisman. Lu Ming took out the jade voice transmission talisman and scanned it with his spiritual senses. His expression changed abruptly. It was the news from the Phoenix Palace. Huang Ling and the others were in danger. In fact, some of the paragons of the Divine Elephant sect in the Phoenix Palace had been sending him messages continuously. Previously, he had been in the Purgatory Valley and could not send messages in at all. However, they did not give up and continued to send messages. Now that Lu Ming had come out of seclusion, they naturally received the news. The Wind Race and Luo Pokong. A sharp glint flashed in Lu Ming's eyes. Then he circulated his saint energy and his figure was like a ray of light, cutting through the void. At this moment, be it Qiu Yu, Desolate Power, Huang Ling, or Long Chen, all of them were in danger. The four of them were no match for Feng Wuchen and Luo Pokong even when they joined forces. Bush. The long spear in Luo Pokong's hand burst out. It turned into rays of spear radiance and pierced towards the vital points of Qiu Yu and Desolate Power. Each of the spear's radiances contained the power of the law of penetration. They could penetrate everything, even other laws. At this moment, 2 parts of Desolate Li's body had already been pierced by the spear radiance. The front and back of his body were completely penetrated and blood was flowing out. If not for the special constitution of the Desolate race, making them extremely strong and resilient, they would not have been able to continue fighting. However, he still stood in front of Qiu Yu. The two of them used all their strength to fight Luo Pokong. Desolate Power barely dodged one of RG's spear radiances, or else he would have been pierced through. At this moment, Feng Ling and Long Chen were not in a much better state. Even with Feng Ling's terrifying vitality, her face was pale. "Where's Lu Ming? Where's he hiding? Let him come out and fight me." Luo Pokong shouted coldly. He had lost face when he was defeated by Lu Ming last time. Now that he had broken through to the Saint Realm, he must humiliate Lu Ming. If Lu Ming makes a move, I'm afraid you won't be able to handle it. Desolately grinned. Lu Ming defeated this person previously. Qiu Yu said, so that's how it is. It turns out that you're Lu Ming's defeated opponent. You still have the face to come here? Desolately laughed. Shut up. If Lu Ming dares to show up, I'll make him kneel in front of me and beg for mercy. It's a pity that he's like a tortoise hiding in its shell now. He doesn't dare to show himself. Luo Pokong sneered. Are you looking for me? Suddenly, a cold voice came from the distance. Then, a beam of light flew over from the distance at an astonishing speed. In the blink of an eye, it arrived at this place. This rainbow light did not stop at all. It rushed directly towards Luo Pokong. Huge prison-suppressing steels appeared one after another and pressed down on Luo Pokong. Lu Ming! Luo Pokong let out an angry roar and thrust his long spear at the illusionary steel. The illusionary steel exploded, and Luo Pokong's body trembled and he took a few steps back. Buzz. The light faded and Lu Ming's figure appeared. It's Lu Ming! The hearts of Huang Ling and the others moved, and they revealed happy expressions. Phoenix Palace, Divine Elephant Sect, and the Desolate Race were also delighted. They did not know why, but as long as they saw Lu Ming, they would feel at ease. It was as if Lu Ming had the ability to turn the tide. Lu Ming, long time no see. I wonder if you can turn the tide in this situation? In the distance, Xian Yanjuan muttered among the ancient Saint clan members, this person is the son of chaos? Those who had never seen Lu Ming before could not help but whisper, their faces filled with curiosity and anticipation. Would the son of chaos appearance change the outcome of the war? Qiu Yu, Huang Li, go and help Huang Ling and Arji rest. Leave this person to me, Lu Ming said. All right. Without any hesitation, Qiu Yu and Desolate charged at Feng Wuchen. With the help of Qiu Yu and Desolate, The situation was finally stabilized. Ha Lu Ming, you've come at the right time. Today, I'll trample you under my feet and let you suffer all kinds of humiliation. Luo Pokong looked at Lu Ming, his eyes glimmering with cold killing intent. Now that he had become an absolute saint, his combat strength had increased dramatically. He was 100% confident that he could defeat Lu Ming. He was forced to take a few steps back by Lu Ming earlier because he was in a hurry and did not unleash much of his strength. Loser, since you've already been defeated once, you'll never be my opponent in the future. Lu Ming said coldly, full of confidence and the belief that he would not lose. This time, you're the one who's defeated. Luo Pokong's long spear trembled and hundreds of spear lights appeared, stabbing toward Lu Ming. Smale tricks. Lu Ming cast the prison-suppressing heavenly art and punched continuously. Tall prison-suppressing steels appeared one after another, suppressing everything. Bang, bang, bang. The spear radiance exploded and was suppressed by the prison-suppressing steel, turning into energy and dissipating. Lu Ming stepped forward and broke through the sniping of the spear radiance, blasting it toward Luo Pokong. Luo Pokong's face darkened. His long spear buzzed and pierced toward Lu Ming like a bolt of lightning. Clang! A huge prison-suppressing steel appeared and clashed with the long spear. Thump! The phantom image of the prison-suppressing steel exploded and the long spear trembled continuously. Lu Ming and Luo Pokong's bodies trembled at the same time and they retreated a few steps. The hearts of many of the spectators in the distance trembled. He's so strong, like can resist an absolute Saint King body alone. Someone asked in shock. Lu Ming's cultivation base was revealed as soon as he made his move. He was a perfected great saint. For example, Feng Ling and the others only managed to resist Feng Wuchen after the 4 king bodies joined forces. However, Lu Ming alone could fight with Luo Pokong. As expected of the Son of Chaos. His combat strength is truly terrifying. Someone sighed. Luo Pokong's face also darkened, and the killing intent in his eyes grew stronger. Kill! The long spear was like a bolt of lightning, piercing towards Lu Ming. The power of the penetrating law was shocking. Lu Ming was not afraid at all. He took a step forward and continued to bombard with his prison-suppressing heavenly art. In the blink of an eye, the two of them exchanged dozens of moves, and neither of them had a clear winner. Chapter 1880, Chapter 1880, Chapter 1880, Kings Gather. Chapter 1880, Chapter 1880 Kings Gather. This is all he can do after breaking through to the absolute saint realm. How disappointing! Lu Ming spoke with a mocking tone. Die, destructive strike. Luo Pokong shouted loudly and burst out with his magical technique, displaying his strongest attack. Chaos Finger. Lu Ming pointed his finger and the chaotic finger of tribulation burst forth, clashing with the opponent's long spear. Buzz. The long spear shook violently as if it was under extreme pressure. Luo Pokong's body shook violently as he retreated continuously. Luo Pokong's divine art was about 85% mature, and it was a king path law, so its power was already very shocking. On the other hand, Lu Ming's magical power technique was at 80% maturity, but it was a law of chaos. Its power was equivalent to 90% of the law of kings, which was still superior to Luo Pokong's. Your strongest attack is only SOSO, suppress. Lu Ming's finger pointed out continuously. The energy between heaven and earth gathered towards his finger in a frenzy. A few huge fingers formed in succession and pointed at Luo Pokong. Extreme penetration. Luo Pokong shouted loudly. His body seemed to bow and then shoot out, erupting with astonishing power. With the support of the saint energy of the absolute saint stage, his long spear's penetrative power became even more shocking as he clashed with Lu Ming. Boom, boom, boom. After a few explosions, Luo Pokong's figure retreated again. Luo Pokong retreated while Lu Ming advanced. The fingers of his right hand were constantly pointing out to cast the chaotic finger of tribulation. On his left hand, the law of formation was operating. Endless runes spread out and formed a sealing force that covered Luo Pokong. Luo Pokong retreated continuously, not daring to let the sealing power stick to him. Luo Pokong is no match, he's at a disadvantage. Lu Ming's abilities are so terrifying. The other Heaven's favorites were all shocked. Previously, it was already very shocking that Lu Ming could resist Luo Pokong. Now, Lu Ming was actually suppressing Luo Pokong. Luo Pokong, didn't you want to trample me under your feet today? Why are you retreating? Lu Ming spoke sarcastically, but his attacks did not stop. Instead, they became even more violent. And NBSP, he used the Primal Chaos Tribulation Finger in his right hand to constantly point out the Primal Chaos laws. The law of the Array Dao in his left hand was suffused with endless runes, forming a sealing power that was about to seal Luo Pokong. Although Luo Pokong's penetrative power was strong, he was suppressed by the Finger of Tribulation of Primal Chaos. He could only retreat continuously and was completely at a disadvantage. Lu Ming. Luo Pokong hated Lu Ming to the core. Previously, in the only sacred flail in the ancient Sun Sanctuary, he was no match for Lu Ming's great sage accomplished cultivation with his great sage perfected cultivation. He was defeated by Lu Ming in public and was humiliated. Now that he had entered the Yuan Mountain Sacred Academy and broken through to the Absolute Saint Realm, he was ambitious and wanted to compete with the heroes of the world. He even wanted to completely trample Lu Ming under his feet. However, after meeting Lu Ming, he was still no match for him and was suppressed. He felt a lump in his chest, and it was extremely uncomfortable. Buzz. Buzz. Lu Ming's right finger pointed at the void continuously. Then, in the sky, an incomparably huge finger formed, as if a god had come from an eternal unknown place. A finger stretched out and pressed down on Luo Pokong. The scene was extremely shocking. Luo Pokong thrust his spear with all his might. A shocking spear light soared into the sky, trying to pierce through this finger. However, the result was that the spear light exploded and Luo Pokong was blasted down from the sky, falling to the ground. Boom! Luo Pokong landed on the ground. The ground exploded, and a huge pit was created. Although he managed to stabilize his body, his face was pale and he spat out a mouthful of blood. I've said it before. If I can defeat you once, I can defeat you a second time. You will never be my opponent. When you are defeated by me, you are no longer worthy of being my opponent. Lu Ming stepped forward and looked down at Luo Pokong from above. Luo Pokong's face turned from pale to ashen. His eyes were full of anger and killing intent. You only have the upper hand for a moment, yet you dare to say that Brother Luo is not worthy of being your opponent. How arrogant. Brother Luo, let me give you a hand. Not far away, Kong Lang coldly spoke. He then stepped forward, and endless waves appeared around him. Kong Lang wanted to join forces with Luo Pokong to deal with Lu Ming. Alright, let's join forces and severely injure this brat. After that, we will bring him out of the Yuan Mountain Sacred Academy and cripple him. Want him to live like a dog for the rest of his life. Luo Pokong said. His voice was extremely cold and filled with endless killing intent. He had been defeated by Lu Ming time and time again, and there was an inner demon in his heart. The air wave treaded on the waves and headed toward Lu Ming. As expected, Kong Lang is going to make his move. Many people were moved. Kong Lang and Luo Pokong had come together. As expected, their relationship was not shallow. At this moment, although Lu Ming's combat strength was strong, he was definitely not a match for Luo Pokong and Kong Lang's joint forces. It seemed that Lu Ming's side would eventually lose this battle. Many people sighed. Lu Ming's cultivation was too weak. If one of them had reached the Absolute Saint Realm, they would not have been in such a passive position. Two king physiques of the Absolute Saint Realm joining forces to fight a great saint. Aren't you afraid of being laughed at? At this moment, a clear and melodious voice was heard. It was very pleasant to the ears and would not be forgotten after hearing it once. Who is it? Kong Lang shouted as he looked around. In the distance, a graceful figure stepped through the air. It's Luo Tianyi. Someone cried out in alarm as he recognized the person. Lu Ming's lips curled into a smile. Luo Tianyi was here. Luo Tianyi slowly walked over to Kong Lang and said, "If you want to fight, then I'll fight with you." Luo Tianyi, you're only ranked 36th on the Saint King ranking. If you want to fight, I'll accompany you. It won't be too late to fight Lu Ming after I defeat you. Kong Lang snorted coldly and stepped toward Luo Tianyi. Under his feet, a huge wave rose to the sky, as if it was going to annihilate everything. At this moment, Luo Tianyi's eyes turned dark, as if they had turned into two abysses. Kong Lang's body suddenly stopped. The waves under his feet churned and his body started to tremble. Illusion, break. Kong Lang roared and waved his hands. In an instant, huge waves surged up and destroyed the world, as if to break Luo Tianyi's illusion. However, when all the waves rushed toward Luo Tianyi, they automatically separated, as if they were deliberately avoiding Luo Tianyi. A moment later, Kong Lang's body trembled, and his face flushed red as he spat out a mouthful of blood. At this time, Luo Tianyi's eyes returned to normal and she said indifferently, "You're not my match." "You?" Kong Lang was shocked. They had only fought for a short while, but he was already injured. He could not break Luo Tianyi's sky illusion law at all. Luo Tianyi gave him an unfathomable feeling. Luo Tianyi is so powerful. The current Saint King ranking is not that accurate. It can't be taken seriously. Luo Tianyi is too low-key. Although she's ranked 36th on the Saint King list, her strength is probably enough to rank in the top 20. Many people were shocked by Luo Tianyi's strength. In the battle just now, Luo Tianyi had made Kong Lang spit blood without even moving his hand. Such strength was simply strange and unpredictable. Chapter 1881. Chapter 1881. Chapter 1881. Desolate power breaks through to absolute saint. Chapter 1881. Chapter 1881. Desolate power breaks through to absolute saint. Even if they had the same king body and cultivation realm, there would be strong and weak ones. The strength of a person's battle consciousness, magical ability, and usage of laws all determined the strength of a person's battle power. Moreover, even though they were all king path laws, there were stronger and weaker ones. Some king path laws were extremely terrifying in power, surpassing other king path laws. For example, Luo Tianyi's sky illusion law could make people fall into an endless illusion without moving. There was also Luo Kank Iong's law of deprivation, which was said to be able to deprive everything and was even more overbearing. "Luo Pokong, let us go!" Kong Lang shouted. He didn't dare to continue fighting, and his figure flickered into the distance. Luo Pokong revealed a trace of unwillingness. Il's body moved and also headed into the distance. Lu Ming did not give chase. Although his strength was stronger than Luo Pokong's, there was a limit to it. If Luo Pokong was determined to leave, with his terrifying speed of penetrating laws, he would not be able to stop him. Retreat. Seeing Luo Pokong and Kong Lang retreat, Feng Wuchen didn't dare to continue fighting. He roared and turned into a gust of wind, fleeing into the distance and disappearing without a trace. The others also abandoned their opponents and fled frantically. Damn it, at least this kid escaped quickly. Next time, I'll definitely destroy him. Desolately cursed. He was very unhappy. He was an invincible existence among the younger generation of the desolate race. This was the first time he had been beaten so badly in a battle with someone of the same generation. "Luo Tianyi, thank you." Lu Ming walked toward Luo Tianyi and smiled. "There's no need to thank me." Luo Tianyi smiled and said, "I was in seclusion. I heard that there was a battle here as soon as one came out. I came to take a look. One didn't expect it to be you. It's a pity I'm too late." "Not too late, just in time," Lu Ming said with a smile. Lu Ming is also familiar with Luo Tianyi? So many experts have gathered. "It's truly shocking," someone exclaimed. Lu Ming was also familiar with Luo Tianyi. With Luo Tianyi, there were too many geniuses on Lu Ming's side. He already had 5 king's bodies. In addition to his own chaotic body, the power was too shocking. And there are so many beautiful women. I'm so envious. Someone sighed, and many people immediately agreed. Luo Tianyi, Qiu Yu, and Feng Ling were all beautiful women who had stunned the world. Any one of them was one of the top beauties in the Yuan Mountains Sacred Academy. However, the 3 of them were familiar with Lu Ming. How could he not be envious? This kid is such a womanizer. I wonder how my sister is doing. With her arrogant temper, would she be able to endure it? Tim really looking forward to it. Xian Yanjuan chuckled. Many people turned to look at Xian Yanjuan. Could it be that this proud daughter of heaven from our ancient Saint clan knew Lu Ming? The battle is over. Let's go. Xian Yanjuan said and turned to leave. The geniuses of the ancient Saint clan followed behind Xian Yanjuan as if she was their leader. After that, some people also turned around and left. Huang Ling, desolate force, you're both injured. Let us heal first. Lu Ming looked at Huang Ling and the rest. All right. Huang Ling, Huang Li, Long Chen, Xiao Yu, and a few other injured people sat in the air, consumed elixirs, and began to heal. Not long after, Huang Ling was the first to finish her healing. She had the undying celestial phoenix body, and her life force was extremely exuberant. She was said to be undying, and no matter how serious her injuries were, she could recover very quickly. After that, Long Chen and Xiao Yu also ended their healing. Their injuries weren't that serious. Only the desolate power was left. He had taken the desolate power head-on, and his body had been pierced with a few holes. He was severely injured. At this moment, his muscles wriggled and the holes were filled up. Boom. Suddenly, a powerful aura burst out from Desolate Li's body. This is the aura of an absolute saint. Lu Ming's eyes widened and he revealed a look of joy. After a huge battle, Desolate Power had actually broken through and entered the absolute saint realm. However, this was normal. Desolate Power's cultivation had long reached the great saint perfection realm. He was the closest to the absolute saint realm among them. After this period of cultivation and the battle just now, it was not surprising that his potential had been stimulated and he had broken through in one go. Ha! Desolate Power has broken through to the absolute saint realm. That's great! The other members of the Desolate race were also overjoyed. Huang Ling, Long Chen, and the others also looked happy. With a breakthrough in Desolate Power, their strength would become even stronger in the future. It would not be so easy for Feng Wuchen to deal with them. If Desolate Li broke through to the absolute saint realm, he would still be able to fight Feng Wuchen. Some people were watching from afar, and those who had not left were also shocked. Desolate Li had broken through to the absolute saint realm. An absolute saint with a king body was definitely powerful. Coupled with Lu Ming's terrifying combat strength, Lu Ming and his group would become a force that could not be underestimated in the Yuan Mountain Saint Academy. During this period of time, many people in the Yuan Mountain Sacred Academy are breaking through. After a period of time, I'm afraid there will be an even more exciting clash in the Yuan Mountain Sacred Academy. That's right. In fact, there are many king physiques whose cultivation hasn't reached the saint realm yet. When these people all enter the saint realm, the collision will be even more intense. That will be a true great era. There's still the strongest group of people who have been cultivating in the Holy Ji battlefield. When they break out of seclusion, they'll probably be even stronger. We have to work hard too. Otherwise, we'll become stepping stones for others in this great era. Some of the geniuses were discussing. They felt pressured, but they were also filled with anticipation. Everyone wanted to burst out with brilliant sparks in this brilliant great era and be remembered by everyone. Lu-hu-hu. In the heavens and earth, endless origin energy gathered towards the Desolate Power. Give him a hand. Lu Ming waved his hand, and a large number of raw gemstones exploded, turning into rolling raw energy that surged towards the Desolate Power. Long Chen and the rest also took out large piles of raw gemstones and exploded them. As the vast amount of origin chi was absorbed by the Desolate Power, his aura became stronger and stronger. Rolling Saint Power shot into the sky like smoke. After a few hours, the aura of the Desolate Power was retracted, and he opened his eyes. Ah, Long Chen, you'd better hurry up and cultivate. Otherwise, I won't have any opponents. Desolate Li laughed out loud and then looked at Lu Ming. Lu Ming, when are you going to have a big fight with me? I'm not free. Lu Ming rejected him directly. He would not have a good life if he was entangled with this battle maniac. Desolate Li touched his head helplessly, causing many people to laugh. Let us go back. Luo Tianyi, do you want to go together? Lu Ming looked at Luo Tianyi. All right. Luo Tianyi nodded with a smile. She was extremely charming, causing the young men from the Divine Elephant Sect, Phoenix Palace, and the Desolate Race to stare at her. Other than Feng Ling and Long Chen, the others were all very curious. Luo Tianyi, the holy successor of the Jade Lake Divine Palace, was a peerless beauty. She actually helped Lu Ming and seemed to be very familiar with him. She even listened to him. This made many people's imagination run wild. Qiu Yu blinked her eyes. She looked at Lu Ming and then at Luo Tianyi. No one knew what she was thinking. Soon, the group returned to their residence and gathered in a spacious courtyard. Chapter 1882, Chapter 1882, The Celestial Emperor's Sword. Chapter 1882, The Celestial Emperor's Sword. Everyone, do you have any news about the Grand Lunar Treasure Lotus? Or, help me keep an eye out for news in this area. After chatting for a while, Lu Ming asked. Right now, he was lacking the materials to make the soul recovery pill. However, this kind of spiritual item was extremely rare. It would be difficult for him to find it by himself. If he asked everyone for help, he would have a better chance. The Tai Sui Treasure Lotus? Some of them were at a loss. It was obvious that they had never even heard of it. The rest of the people who had heard of it also had a thoughtful expression. The Astral Treasure Lotus is extremely rare. It's said to be extremely spiritual. It'll be difficult to find it in a short time, but one know a place that might have news of the Astral Treasure Lotus. Luo Tianyi thought for a moment and said, What place? Lu Ming was overjoyed. For generations, many geniuses had joined the Jade Lake Divine Palace, so it was normal for Luo Tianyi to know a lot of information that ordinary people didn't. Vientiane Tower. Luo Tianyi explained, Vientiane Tower is specialized in collecting all kinds of information. Whether it's from the north or the south, big or small, they will collect information from all over the Yuan continent. They have people all over the world. As long as you spend money, you can buy any information. There's such a place? Where can I find the Vientiane Tower? Lu Ming was overjoyed. If that was the case, he could go to Vientiane Tower and ask around. He might be able to gain something. There's a branch of Vientiane Tower in Heavenly Emperor City. 111 give you the specific address. Luo Tianyi took out a jade card and carved the map on it with her spiritual sense. She handed it to Lu Ming. Everyone chatted for a while more before leaving. The next day, Lu Ming and Qiu Yu left the Yuan Mountain Sacred Academy together and headed towards Vientiane Tower. The Heavenly Emperor City was extremely vast and boundless. The Vientiane Tower was located to the north of the Heavenly Emperor City. And NBSP, the two of them continued to fly, and not long after, they discovered a place that was extremely lively. Many people had gathered around, as if they were watching a good show. Shall we go down and take a look? Qiu Yu blinked her eyes and revealed a curious expression. All right, let's go and take a look. Lu Ming nodded. The two of them landed and discovered an ancient platform. The platform was surrounded by people of all ages. On the ancient platform, there was a sword stuck in the ground all the way to the hilt. A middle-aged man grabbed the hilt and used all his strength to push it out, but the sword didn't move at all. This old man, what's going on? Lu Ming greeted an elder and inquired about the situation. Little brother, this must be your first time in Heavenly Emperor City. Let me tell you, this sword is the sword of the Heavenly Emperor. The old man said proudly. What? The Celestial Emperor's sword. Is that true? Lu Ming was greatly shocked. The sword on the platform was actually the Celestial Emperor's sword. How could it have been left behind until now? I don't know if it's true, but it's just a legend. It's said that this platform was built by the Celestial Emperor, and this sword was also inserted here by the Celestial Emperor. It's 9 feet long, but no one has been able to pull it out for countless years. The old man explained. No one can pull it out, not even martial sovereigns? Lu Ming was even more curious. Qiu Yu also looked at the old man with a curious expression. No, it has nothing to do with one's cultivation. Many martial sovereigns can't even pull it out by a foot, but those with low cultivation might be able to pull it out a little. There was once a young man who had just started cultivating who could pull it out by 5 feet. The old man explained. Throughout the ages, the record for the most uprooting was 8 feet. Among this generation of young people, there was one who managed to uproot 8 feet. He was the descendant of the heavenly emperor, the peerless genius, Hung Xinghe, who had the bloodline of the heavenly emperor. And I heard that the Star River has spread the word that he will pull out this celestial emperor's sword sooner or later and make it his personal sword. A middle-aged man interjected. Lu Ming roughly understood what was going on. At this moment, the burly man on the platform was almost exhausted. In the end, he couldn't even pull it out by a foot. He retreated from the platform with a red face. There are people who come here every day to try. Many of them were very confident in the beginning and thought that they could pull out the celestial emperor's sword. But in the end, they were all disappointed. The old man shook his head. That's just wishful thinking. How can the celestial emperor's sword be pulled out so easily? For countless years, no matter how many heaven's favorites have been born, no one has been able to pull it out. It is said that once you pull it out, you may obtain the inheritance of the celestial emperor. The middle-aged man sneered. That's just a legend, it can't be taken for real. The old man shook his head. At this moment, another person stepped onto the platform and began to draw his sword. Buzz. Suddenly, the sound of a sword rang out, shaking the sky. The hilt of the sword emitted a bright light. The sword was pulled out by a foot. However, 1 foot was the limit. No matter how much strength that person used, he could only pull it out by 1 foot. After a while, the man failed and retreated from the platform. The sword returned to the platform, leaving only the hilt. It's really amazing. Lu Ming was secretly amazed. Even a martial emperor powerhouse could not pull out this sword. It was a miracle. Martial emperor powerhouses were extremely powerful when they were enraged, yet they could not even pull out the sword. If one wanted to pull out this sword, it had nothing to do with one's cultivation level. It depended on the person. This sword is mine. At this moment, a young man stepped onto the platform. This person's expression was cold and arrogant, and he was filled with great confidence. How presumptuous! This sword can't even be pulled out of the eternal Star River, and this person is saying that it's his. Many people were very confident before they went up, but they failed very quickly. I've seen many people like this. Some people were discussing with disdain. The young man snorted and stepped to the hilt of the sword. He held the sword with both hands, exhaled, and pulled it up with force. Buzz! The sound of the sword shook the sky. The celestial emperor's sword was pulled out by a foot. Rise again! The young man shouted and his power exploded. The sound of the sword rang out again, and the sword emitted rays of multicolored light. 3 feet. He actually pulled out 3 feet. Someone exclaimed. In that instant, the young man had pulled out another 2 feet, making it a total of 3 feet. This person's talent is shocking, but he can only pull it out by 3 feet. 3 feet is his limit. Someone else said, "Rise again, you're courting death." The young man shouted again, and a terrifying power of laws erupted from his body. That is, the laws of the king path. This person has a king body. Exclamations of shock rang out. Buzz! Buzz! With 2 sword hums, the sword was pulled out another 2 feet, reaching 5 feet. Initial absolute saint cultivation. This person should be a top genius of the Yuan Mountain Saint Academy. Lu Ming's heart skipped a beat. However, he had not seen this person before. The young man pulled the celestial emperor's sword 5 feet out and stopped there as if he had reached his limit. The young man's cultivation was pushed to the extreme, and his body was drowned in endless multicolored light. Chapter 1883, Chapter 1883, Chapter 1883, Record broken. Chapter 1883, Chapter 1883 Record broken. After a moment, the young man shouted again. Buzz! With another sword cry, the celestial emperor's sword was pulled out another foot, reaching 6 feet. This sword looks like a stone sword. Lu Ming studied it carefully and realized that the sword seemed to be made of stone. It was as if it was made of a strange stone. 6 feet. This person is so powerful. A normal king's body can only pull it out 5 feet, but this person can pull it out 6 feet. He's extraordinary. However, 6 feet is his limit. There have been records since ancient times that an ordinary king's body can pull it out 5 feet, and some particularly terrifying king's bodies can pull it out 6 feet. The Son of Heaven can pull it out 7 feet, and the highest record is 8 feet, but it's very rare even since ancient times. Indeed, many people were discussing. As for the young man, after he pulled out 6 feet, he had indeed reached his limit. After a few consecutive bursts, the sword did not move at all. In the end, the young man had no choice but to give up and retreat. The sword returned to the platform. Interesting. Chiyue, do you want to try? Lu Ming asked. I'll try. Chiyu smiled. She was also eager to try. Ha, little girl, you want to try too? One bet you can pull it out by 3 feet. Uncle has high hopes for you. The middle-aged man laughed. There were many young people who came here every day to draw their swords, but how many of them could pull it out by 3 feet? The middle-aged man was just joking. Chiyu smiled and did not say anything. She stepped onto the platform and grabbed the hilt of her sword. Rise! Chiyu shouted as her saint energy surged, and she pulled it up. Buzz! 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 With 3 consecutive sword hums, the Celestial Emperor's sword was pulled 3 feet out. The middle-aged man was dumbfounded. He said, still, he really pulled it out by 3 feet? He had only said it casually just now. He had never expected that this little girl would actually be able to pull it out by 3 feet. Uncle, it's not over yet. Lu Ming said with a smile. Rise. At this moment, Chiyu shouted again, and the laws of yin and yang filled the air. Buzz. 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 The sound of swords clashing rang out continuously, and it rang out 3 times in a row. 6 feet. King's body, another king's body, and an extremely terrifying king's body. Another Heaven's Chosen who pulled out 6 feet has appeared. This woman should be a Heaven's Chosen from the Yuan Mountains Sacred Academy. Chiyu pulled out 6 feet, causing a heated discussion. In the past, it was very rare for someone to pull out 6 feet. On average, it would take many years for one to appear. Today, in such a short time, 2 people had appeared in a row, which was very rare. Of course, when the Yuan Mountains Sacred Academy had just opened, it was the liveliest. In one day, more than a dozen Heaven's favorites who could pull out 5 or 6 feet had appeared, which shocked the Heavenly Emperor City. However, Chiyu had reached her limit after pulling it out by 6 feet. After a few fruitless attempts, she gave up and returned to Lu Ming's side. Do you want to try? Chiyu looked at Lu Ming with a curious expression. Lu Ming was the son of chaos. She wanted to see how far he could pull. At the side, the middle-aged man and the old man sized Lu Ming up curiously. Lu Ming and Chiyu were walking together. Could it be that they had the same king physique? Could it be that he was also in existence that could pull out 5 or even 6 feet? Then today would be lively. All right, 111 try. Lu Ming smiled. Since he was here, he might as well give it a try. Lu Ming stepped onto the platform and many people's eyes were on him. There are quite a few young people here today. Indeed. One wonder how far this person can pull out? To be able to come up after 2 king physiques, he's probably not simple. Today is really lively. Some of them sized Lu Ming up curiously and looked forward to it. Could it be that Lu Ming could also pull out 6 feet? Lu Ming walked to the sword hilt and held the sword with both hands. He instantly felt a strange, warm energy surge out from the sword hilt and into his body. Can this energy test a person's cultivation? Lu Ming secretly guessed. This was because those who came here to draw their swords had nothing to do with their cultivation. A martial supreme might not even be able to pull it out by 1 foot, but a person who had just started cultivating could pull it out by 5 feet. Then let's see how far one can pull it out. Lu Ming's eyes narrowed and he pulled hard. Buzz! The sound of a sword rang out, and the long sword was pulled out by a foot. It's really heavy. Lu Ming mumbled. The saint energy in his body surged, and his 2 saint hearts began to spin rapidly. Endless power poured into Lu Ming's hands and he pulled up again. Buzz! 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 4 sword hums resounded, and the sword shone with brilliant light. 5 feet. In an instant, Lu Ming had pulled it out by 5 feet. He still hasn't used his laws. Someone exclaimed in disbelief. He didn't even use his nomological laws, yet he could pull it out by 5 feet. How is that possible? We didn't see it wrong, right? Everyone was in disbelief. To be able to pull it out by 5 feet without using any laws, this was too shocking. The king physique from before looked at Lu Ming with a brilliant light in his eyes. It's really heavy, but this is not my limit. Rise. Lu Ming still did not use the law. He relied on the power of the holy power and the spirit body. Buzz. Another sword chime rang out. 6 feet. Lu Ming still did not use the law. The entire place was silent and everyone was staring at Lu Ming. To be able to pull it out by 6 feet without using any laws was simply too shocking. Unbelievable. I wonder what level of nomological law this person's nomological law is at. If it's a powerful king path nomological law, he might be able to pull out another foot and be on par with the Son of Heaven. Someone said, his voice somewhat interfering. The uncle and old man who were chatting with Lu Ming previously were also at a loss for words and were dumbfounded. The gentle-looking young man whom they were chatting with earlier was actually so formidable? To be able to pull it out by 6 feet without using any laws, it seemed that only the galaxy had ever done it, right? Didn't that mean that Lu Ming had already tied the record of the galaxy? Again! Lu Ming's eyes were filled with determination. He felt that he had not reached his limit. He had refined a wisp of chaotic qi in his spiritual body, which made his spiritual body much stronger than an upper-class sky spiritual body. Most importantly, he had 2 saint hearts, which gave him endless potential. Rise! Lu Ming shouted. Other than the laws, all the energy surged into his arms and exploded in an instant. Buzz! Another sword cry resounded through the firmament, and a beam of sword qi shot up into the sky. 7 feet. Lu Ming pulled it out by 7 feet, but he still did not use the power of law. How is that possible? How was this possible? To be able to pull it out by 7 feet without using any laws, this is unprecedented. When the galaxy has not used its laws, it can only be pulled out by 6 feet. Doesn't that mean that Lu Ming has surpassed the galaxy's record? Some people say that the reason why the Star River can pull out 6 feet without using any nomological laws is that he is the descendant of the Celestial Emperor. Otherwise, he wouldn't have been able to do it. How did this person do it? The scene was out of control, and many people were in disbelief. Chapter 1884. Pulling out the sword and shocking the Emperor's city? Chapter 1884. Pulling out the sword and shocking the Emperor's city. One should know that an ordinary son of heaven could only pull it out by 7 feet. However, Lu Ming was able to pull it out by 7 feet without using any laws. This was too unbelievable. Could it be that he has secretly used a law, but we didn't notice it? Some people couldn't help but guess. It's possible, it's very possible. This guess was agreed by most people. Otherwise, it would be too shocking. But the next moment, everyone shut up. Rise! A voice rang in everyone's ears. The laws of chaos burst out from Lu Ming's body. Buzz! Immediately, there was the sound of a sword. At this moment, the long sword whistled, and a shocking sword qi shot into the sky and into the boundless starry sky. The entire platform was glowing. The endless brilliance almost drowned Lu Ming. The scene fell into a deathly silence. 8 feet. Lu Ming had pulled out 8 feet and even used the law. It proved that Lu Ming had not used the law and he had already pulled out 7 feet. At this moment, he used his nomological laws and pulled out an 8-foot-long sword, which was on par with the discipline in history and the discipline of the galaxy. The law of chaos. This person is one of the sons of heaven, the son of chaos. It's too shocking. He pulled it out by 8 feet and tied the record for the galaxy. Can this person completely pull out the Celestial Emperor's sword? As soon as he said that, the entire place fell silent again. Even a pin drop could be heard. Lu Ming was able to pull it out by 7 feet without using the power of law. This was unprecedented in history. Could Lu Ming pull it out by 9 feet after using the law? This was really hard to say. Could it be that the Celestial Emperor's sword that had been stuck here for countless years was about to be born? Many people trembled in their hearts. They were both nervous and expectant. The uncle and uncle who were chatting with Lu Ming earlier were completely stunned. They had never imagined that the young man they were chatting with was a rare peerless genius. 8 feet 1 more foot. At this moment, Lu Ming's eyes were extremely bright. At this moment, he had gathered all the strength in his body into his arms. The muscles in his body were bulging, and he was filled with infinite power. Then he pulled the sword upwards. Buzz! A sword cry resounded through the sky, causing everyone's hearts to beat violently. At this moment, endless sword light pierced through the sky. A shocking sword light stood between the heaven and earth. Everyone in Heavenly Emperor City could see it. On the platform, a young man could be seen holding a sword high in the air. He looked like a legendary god of war. The Celestial Emperor's sword was completely pulled out by Lu Ming and he held it in his hand. At this moment, time seemed to have frozen. Space seemed to have frozen as well. It was as if they had stopped at this moment for eternity. In the center of Heavenly Emperor City, there was a vast palace. At this moment, many figures rushed out of the palace, exuding a powerful and terrifying aura. The Celestial Emperor's sword has appeared. In this world, other than Xing He, there's actually someone who can pull out the Celestial Emperor's sword? Let's go. The Celestial Emperor's sword cannot fall into the hands of outsiders. We must get it back. A series of voices rang out before they stepped into the air and left. On the platform where the Celestial Emperor's sword was, Lu Ming could not help but feel uncomfortable as if a crisis was about to befall him. With a thought, Lu Ming kept the Celestial Emperor's sword into the mountain and river diagram. He then flew down and pulled Qiuyu. Let's go! The two of them turned into 2 rays of light and left the place in an instant. It was only when Lu Ming and the other man disappeared that everyone seemed to have woken up from a dream and reacted. The Celestial Emperor's sword has been pulled out. The Celestial Emperor's sword that has been here for so many years has actually been pulled out. Who is that young man? He's in control of the laws of chaos. He should be a genius of the Yuan Mountain's Sacred Academy. It's not difficult to find out. Many people were discussing excitedly. Buzz. And NBSP whoosh. At this moment, a few figures suddenly appeared in the sky, each of them exuding a terrifying aura that made everyone shiver. Emperor pressure. It's a martial emperor powerhouse. And it's the Hung family's martial emperor. The Hung family claims to have the blood of the Celestial Emperor and are the descendants of the Celestial Emperor. Now that the Celestial Emperor's sword has been pulled out, the Hung family will definitely make a move. The Xingxing River has already announced that the Celestial Emperor's sword will be pulled out by him sooner or later and will become his sword. Many people were discussing in low voices. The Emperor-level powerhouse from the Hung family looked at the empty platform in shock. At the same time, a gloomy expression flashed across his face. The Celestial Emperor's sword had really been pulled out. Who is it? He pulled out the Celestial Emperor's sword? A powerful martial emperor from the Hung family swept his gaze over the crowd, and his powerful emperor aura made it hard for everyone to breathe. I don't know. It was a young man, but he has already left. Someone replied. A young man? Who is it? Which force do you come from? The emperor-level expert from the Heng clan asked. One don't know, but he is the son of chaos and controls the laws of chaos. He should be from the Yuan Mountain's Sacred Academy. Someone said. Yuan Mountain's Sacred Academy. The emperor-level powerhouse from the Heng clan had a gloomy expression. If he was a heaven's favorite from the Yuan Mountain's Sacred Academy, then things would be difficult. The Heng family was extremely powerful and claimed to be the descendants of the Heavenly Emperor. They had a deep foundation and unfathomable strength, and they were one of the strongest forces in the Heavenly Emperor City. However, the Yuan Mountain's Sacred Academy was jointly established by 3 great emperors. They didn't dare to directly head up to the Yuan Mountain's Sacred Academy to demand for her. That person shouldn't have gone far. Chase after him. It's best to take him down before he returns to the Yuan Mountain's Sacred Academy. The sword of the Celestial Emperor can only belong to our Heng family. Let's go. The leading Heng family martial emperor said. The other martial emperors moved and flew in all directions. At this moment, Lu Ming had changed his appearance. He pulled out the Celestial Emperor's sword and felt a sense of danger. Moreover, the appearance of the Celestial Emperor's sword would certainly alarm many powerful forces, so he made a prompt decision and immediately left with Qiuyu. In a secret place, he sent Qiuyu into the mountain and river diagram, and then he used the divine breath technique to turn into a middle-aged man with sallow skin. With his current cultivation base, even a martial emperor powerhouse would not be able to recognize him so easily. He swaggered down the street and headed in the direction of Vientiane Tower. Not long after, a terrifying expert whistled through the air, emitting a terrifying emperor's might that spread in all directions, causing many people to be shocked. He's indeed here. Which force is this expert from? Lu Ming squinted his eyes and made a guess in his heart. However, he did not stop and headed towards Vientiane Tower. The monarch-level expert's spiritual senses swept past him, but they could not recognize him at all. The other party hadn't even seen his face, and he had even used the divine breath technique, so how could he have discovered him? Not long after, Lu Ming came to a pavilion in the north of the Heavenly Emperor City. This was the Vientiane Tower. Lu Ming walked in and an elder immediately received him. "Dear customer, may I first help you?" the old man asked. "I need to find out some information," Lu Ming said. Chapter 1885. The Tai Sword Tomb. Chapter 1885. The Tai Sword Tomb. To get information, go to the left side of the hall. The old man smiled. Lu Ming nodded and walked to the hall on the left. There was a beautiful lady there to receive Lu Ming. "What kind of information do you need? For example, information about people, cultivation arts, or martial skills, or even materials for sacred medicine." The young woman had a gentle smile on her face, which made people feel very comfortable. "It's a type of saint herb," Lu Ming said. "If you want the sacred medicine, please go to room 6. They'll bring you there." The young lady smiled and led Lu Ming to a room at the side of the hall. Lu Ming secretly sighed. Vientiane Tower had a clear division of labor. The information was different according to the corresponding room. This way, the efficiency would indeed be better. Lu Ming saw an elegant middle-aged man as he walked into room number 6. "Sir, what kind of saint herb do you want to know?" the middle-aged man asked. "I want to know where one can find the Grand Astral Lotus for sale, or if I can find one," Lu Ming said. "The Astral Treasure Lotus is an extremely rare sacred medicine with special effects. There haven't been many of them since ancient times." The elegant middle-aged man sighed. "Even Vientiane Tower doesn't have any news about the Grand Astral Treasure Lotus?" Lu Ming's heart sank. One can only say that you're very lucky. If you had come a few days earlier, you might have made a wasted trip. But yesterday, one just received news about the Grand Astral Treasure Lotus. Someone has seen it in a place." The elegant middle-aged man laughed. "What place?" Lu Ming was overjoyed. "Brother, don't worry. A sacred herb like the Grand Astral Treasure Lotus is too rare. Vientiane Tower paid a huge price to obtain this information. If you want to know this information, you naturally have to pay a price too." The elegant middle-aged man smiled. "How many raw gemstones?" Lu Ming said. He knew that if he wanted to know more, he would need the rough stone. Information on a rare item like the Grand Astral Treasure Lotus is naturally precious. 500,000 superior-grade raw stones for this piece of information, the elegant middle-aged man said. The corners of Lu Ming's lips trembled slightly. A piece of news was sold for 500,000 superior-grade raw stones. It was really expensive. Of course, Vientiane Tower's people were all over the place. The cost of training so many people was very high. It was normal for information to be sold at a high price. "All right, one want the information on the Grand Astral Treasure Lotus." Lu Ming took out a storage ring and placed 500,000 superior-grade raw stones in it. He then handed it to the middle-aged man. After the elegant middle-aged man confirmed the number, he said, "Some time ago, someone saw the Tai Treasure Lotus in the Tai Sword Tomb. However, the Tai Treasure Lotus is extremely spiritual and can escape on its own. Therefore, it's up to your luck whether you can get it. Please." After saying that, the middle-aged man waved his hand to send the guest off. The Tai Sword Tomb? Lu Ming's eyes flashed and he left Vientiane Tower. Not long after, he returned to the Yuan Mountains Sacred Academy. He then sent a message to Huang Ling, Long Chen, and the others, saying that he would be leaving for a while. He planned to head to the Tai Sword Tomb immediately to look for the Grand Sui Treasure Lotus and help Qiu Yu regain her memories. For things like memories, the longer they were dragged on, the more likely it would be disadvantageous to Qiu Yu and the more difficult it would be to recover. Lu Ming did not have to worry about the Yuan Mountains Sacred Institute. Desolate Force had broken through to the Absolute Saint Realm and his strength had increased greatly. Moreover, there was also Luo Tianyi. If they joined forces, they would be able to protect themselves. After making his decision, Lu Ming did not waste any time and walked towards the teleportation array of the Yuan Mountains Sacred Institute. Of course, he couldn't directly teleport to the Tai Sword Tomb. Instead, he teleported to the public teleportation area near the Tai Sword Tomb. In fact, every Emperor-level force would set up a teleportation array, but it was almost all one-way. It could only teleport people out and not people from the outside. If someone from the outside could be directly teleported into a force, then that force would be very dangerous. If it was an enemy, then it would be even more dangerous. Only forces with very good relationships would open two-way teleportation between each other, allowing free movement. Therefore, in many areas, there would be a public transportation area. For example, outside the ancient Moon Holy Land, outside the ancient Sun Holy Land, and the 8 satellite cities around the Heavenly Emperor City were all public teleportation areas. If outsiders wanted to enter these places, they could only first teleport to the public teleportation area and then fly there. Therefore, if one wanted to go to a certain place, they could only teleport to the nearest public teleportation zone and fly there. After all, Yuan Mountain was too big. It was unrealistic to fly all the way. Even an ordinary monarch-level expert would need a long time to cross the entire Yuan Mountain. Lu Ming stepped into the teleportation array and was teleported to the public teleportation zone closest to the Tai Sword Tomb. He then took out the space-breaking shuttle and flew toward the Tai Sword Tomb. This space-breaking flying shuttle was obtained by Lu Ming after he killed an enemy. It was a space-breaking flying shuttle that was 20 times faster than the one that the Valley Master of Skycloud Valley had. In the space-breaking flying shuttle, Lu Ming restored his original appearance and released Qiu Yu from the mountain and river diagram. The Celestial Emperor's sword, what's so magical about it? Let me see. Qiu Yu came out and looked at Lu Ming curiously. Was this man really her young master? His talent was also amazing, and he could barely be her young master. Qiu Yu's mind was filled with strange thoughts. Lu Ming nodded. With a thought, the Celestial the Arch Sword appeared in his hand. The Celestial Emperor's sword really did look like a stone sword. It was made from a strange stone, and there was nothing unusual about it at the moment. It really looked like an ordinary stone sword. It didn't have that shocking appearance when it was pulled out. This really is the Celestial Emperor's sword. It looks very ordinary. Could the legends be wrong? Qiu Yu looked at the stone sword curiously, then took it and looked at it carefully. Finally, she injected her saint power into it, but the stone sword had no reaction at all. Lu Ming took it and infused it with holy power. He even circulated the chaos law, but there was no reaction. There's no reaction at all. It's a useless sword. Lu Ming was speechless. Then, the two of them studied it again, but there was still no result. Lu Ming had no choice but to store it in the mountain and river diagram. He would study it in the future. The distance to the Tai Sword Tomb was not short. Even with a space-breaking flying shuttle that was 20 times faster, it would still take half a month. The two of them started cultivating in the space-breaking flying shuttle. Half a month passed by in the blink of an eye. They came to a wild mountain range, surrounded by vast mountains. In the mountains, the roars of beasts could be heard. Lu Ming put away the space-breaking shuttle and the two of them stepped on the air. After more than 100,000 miles, they realized that the area was becoming more and more deathly silent and there were fewer and fewer living creatures. In the end, they saw an incomparably huge cave. It was like a huge devil's well that led underground. In the cave, there was a constant flow of death energy, which was why the cave was so quiet. It was said that the Tai sword tomb was under this cave where the swords were buried. Chapter 1886, Chapter 1886, Source of the Sword, Sword Fiend. Chapter 1886, Source of the Sword, Sword Fiend. The Tai sword tomb was the place where the swords were buried. It was said that in the distant era, a terrifyingly powerful swordsman had fallen in the Tai sword tomb. This place became his grave, attracting thousands of swords to pay homage to him. Countless ownerless swords flew here and were buried here with the terrifying swordsman. Behind them, there were countless powerful sword cultivators who coveted that existence's inheritance. In order to fight for that sword cultivator's inheritance, a tragic battle occurred here. Countless powerful swordsmen had died in battle here, their bones buried here. This place had become a terrifying sword tomb. Later on, many sword cultivators would come here when they reached the end of their lives and were about to die. As time passed, the number of experts in swords buried here was already unknown, endless. Over time, the Tai sword tomb also produced some wonderful treasures. For example, the sword source was a rare treasure. Refining the sword source could refine one's true essence and saint power to improve one's cultivation. There were also some people who would come here in search of swords with spirituality. Since ancient times, too many swordsmen had been buried here. It was said that there were even many emperor-level swordsmen. Some people's swords were real treasures. If one was lucky enough to get them, they would be rich. Therefore, the Tai sword tomb had attracted many people to explore it. Every year, many people would come, especially those who cultivated the sword. The Great Sui treasure lotus had been discovered by the people who had explored this place. Lu Ming swept his gaze across the area. Indeed, he saw some figures near the cave. You too, a gentle-looking elder flew over and sized up Lu Ming and Xiao Yu. He smiled and said, "The two of you also want to enter the sword tomb to explore, right?" "Not bad." Lu Ming nodded. "Just as well. This old man and some friends want to form a team and enter the sword tomb together. After all, there are opportunities in the sword tomb, but there are also dangers. The more people there are, the stronger we can be. We can help each other. Little friends, are you willing to enter together?" The old man smiled. "Do you want to form a team?" Lu Ming muttered in his heart. The Tai sword tomb had both opportunities and dangers. Since ancient times, there had been many experts buried here, and it had also given birth to some dangerous creatures, and that was the sword fiend. The sword fiend would kill any living being it encountered. It had no intelligence. There were strong and weak sword fiends. Some sword fiends were extremely strong, and it was very dangerous to encounter them alone. Hence, it was normal for many people to choose to form teams to enter. "Senior, we're here to find a Saint Herb," Lu Ming said. That's great. The Tai sword tomb is very vast. It's like looking for a needle in a haystack with just the two of you. Come with us and pay attention to each other. We'll have a greater chance." The old man laughed. "All right, I agree." Lu Ming pondered for a moment and nodded. The old man's words made sense. It was indeed very difficult for the two of them to search. If they formed a team with more people, the chances would be higher. Moreover, some of these people might have been here for a long time, so they might be able to get some useful information. "All right, come, let me introduce you to the others." The old man smiled and led Lu Ming and Xiao Yu to the others. There were 8 people at the entrance of the cave, and the old man introduced them. After the old man's introduction, Lu Ming knew that his name was Wu Chu. He had a cultivation base of a perfected absolute saint. Among these people, the old man's cultivation base was the highest. "My 2 young friends, we will have to wait for a while more. We will enter when there are more people," Wu Chu said. He always had a gentle smile on his face, giving people a feeling that he was easy to get along with. "It's fine to wait." Lu Ming nodded. The search for the astral treasure lotus couldn't be done overnight, so it didn't matter if he waited a few more days. There were indeed many people who came to explore the Tai sword tomb. After that, there would be people coming every 2 days, and they would all be pulled into the group by Chief Wu. 10 days later, there were more than 20 people in their group. "All right, we're almost there. Let's go." Wu Chu said. Then he flew towards the cave with the others following. This cave was extremely huge and led underground. Its depth was unfathomable. Lu Ming and the group flew down and finally reached the bottom after flying for about 10,000 feet. It really is like an underground world. Lu Ming's gaze swept across the cave and realized that it was a completely different world. He could not see the end of it. There were many mountain peaks here, but it was deathly silent. There was nothing. There was only a sword. The rusty swords were either stuck in the ground or on the mountain peaks. However, almost all of them had lost their spirituality and were on the verge of corrosion over the years. Let's set up a formation so that we won't be flustered when we're attacked. Wu Chu said. He would arrange the formation. Lu Ming and Qiu Yu were arranged to be at the back. Some of them were in the middle, while others were in front, left, and right. Lu Ming's eyes flickered slightly. He realized that the people who were arranged to the front, back, left, and right were those who had joined the team later. Chief Wu brought 5 to 6 people and was in the middle. According to him, he had the highest cultivation level, so he was in the middle and could support the 4 sides at any time. No one had any objections, so they chose a direction and ran forward. The Tai sword tomb gave people the impression that it was dead silent. The world was silent, with the occasional gust of cold wind. Not a single blade of grass grew, and it was extremely desolate. They ran forward for hundreds of miles, and the scenery they saw was almost the same. This was the outer region. All the swords they had encountered had rotted away. There would not be any gains in this area. He didn't know how far he had walked, but suddenly, 2 figures floated over. These were 2 black shadows. Their faces could not be seen clearly, but they were like ghosts. As soon as the 2 black shadows saw Lu Ming and the group, their eyes emitted a sharp aura. They turned into 2 sword lights and rushed toward the group. There are 2 sword fiends, but they are only at the Bright Saint realm. Wu Chu said. With a wave of his hand, 2 streams of qi shot out and destroyed the 2 sword fiends. After the 2 sword fiends were destroyed, they turned into 2 streams of energy and sank into the ground, disappearing. It was said that it was very difficult to kill the sword fiend. It could only be defeated temporarily. After being defeated, it would escape into the ground. After a period of time, it could reappear. The group continued forward and encountered a few more sword fiends behind them. However, they were not strong and were easily defeated. Suddenly, a weak sword intent came from the front. There's a sword source ahead. Chief Wu's eyes lit up. Obviously, it was not Chief Wu's first time in the Tai sword tomb. He was very experienced and could tell that there was a sword source ahead based on a faint sword essence. Everyone concealed their auras and advanced carefully. After bypassing a mountain peak, they saw dozens of sword fiends. What was different was that these dozens of sword fiends looked very solid, as if they were real. Their bodies emitted an astonishingly sharp qi, like divine swords. Chapter 1887, Chapter 1887, Chapter 1887, Bait. Chapter 1887, Chapter 1887 Bait. In the middle of the dozens of sword fiends, there were 3 combat swords. These 3 combat swords did not seem to be real. They were formed by extremely pure sword energy and were stuck in the ground. This was the source of the sword. Dozens of sword fiends surrounded the 3 sword sources. Sword Fiend was able to absorb the energy from the sword source to strengthen itself. Hence, there was a sword fiend guarding the vicinity of every sword source. There were 3 sword sources here, so naturally, there were even more sword fiends guarding the place. 3 sword sources. Wu Chu's gentle eyes shone with a fiery light. What do we do? Someone asked. One can't fight them head-on. Otherwise, it'll alert the other sword fiends and I'll be more troublesome. The best way is to attract the sword fiends and then seize the 3 sword fiends instantly with my powerful combat strength. Wu Chu's eyes shone with an astute light as he continued to make arrangements. All of you, and the rest of you, go and draw away those sword fiends. We have the strongest cultivation, so we'll seize 3 sword sources in an instant. Wu Chu pointed at Lu Ming, Qiu Yu, and some other people who had joined the team later. We'll lure them? Someone asked. That's right. In the sword tomb, only by cooperating with each other can we maximize our strength and obtain more resources. Don't worry, after we obtain the sword source, we'll split it equally. We won't give you a single cent less. Wu Chu said. All right, let's go lure them. That person nodded, and the others had no objections. Lu Ming and the rest approached the sword fiend from different directions. When they were within a certain distance, the sword fiends discovered them and their eyes shot out a sharp glint. Bush, bush. Then, the sword fiend turned into streaks of sword light and chased after Lu Ming and the rest. Let's go! Lu Ming pulled Qiuyu, turned around, and ran. The others did the same. They all turned around and ran off into the distance, disappearing in the blink of an eye. Beside the sword source, there were only 7 or 8 sword fiends left. It's good to find some bait. It can save us a lot of effort. A middle-aged burly man at the side of the Wu area sneered. He looked in the direction where Lu Ming and the rest had left and revealed a mocking smile. Let's not waste any time. Let's take action and seize the 3 sword sources. Let's go, Wu Chu said. He took a step forward and attacked the 8 sword spirits. His cultivation was at the great circle of the absolute saint realm, and with one palm, 2 sword spirits were destroyed and turned into energy that sank into the ground. The other people beside Chief Wu also attacked. Their auras bloomed, and they were all absolute saints. Everyone attacked together. 7 to 8 sword fiends did not hold on for long before they were killed. Lu Ming and Qiuyu were running at top speed, but the sword fiend behind them was surprisingly fast. It was closing the distance between them. This sword chi is so fast. It's like a flying sword light. And there's an absolute saint sword chi among them. Lu Ming's heart skipped a beat and a cold glint flashed in his eyes. Chua, let's stop here. Lu Ming sent a voice transmission to Qiuyu. Qiuyu suddenly stopped. With a wave of her hand, 2 curved blades flew out and spun rapidly, sweeping towards the few sword fiends. One of the sword demons was equivalent to a lower-tier absolute saint, while the others were all great saints. They weren't Qiuyu's opponents at all. The 2 curved blades swept over, and the sword demons collapsed, turning into energy and dissipating. All. At this moment, shrill screams came from several other directions. It was obvious that it was the screams of the other people who had attracted the sword fiend. Lu Ming's gaze turned even colder. Then he and Qiuyu returned to their original spot. At that moment, Wu Chu and the rest had already obtained 3 sword sources and were retreating. They were a little surprised to see Lu Ming and Lin Fan return. It seems like these 2 are heaven's favorites. Even an absolute saint sword fiend can't do anything to them. Wu Chu's eyes flashed, and then he revealed a warm smile. Lu Ming, return to the team. Well, retreat first. Lu Ming nodded. He and Qiuyu remained silent and returned to the team, retreating. Not long after, a deafening roar sounded from the place where he had obtained the sword source. It was obvious that the sword fiend had returned and let out an angry roar when it realized that the sword source had disappeared. Not long after, a few more people who had gone to attract the sword fiend returned to the group. These people's cultivation was not weak, and they did not die at the hands of the sword fiend. Chief Wu, where's the sword source? You said you were going to split it evenly. One of them looked at Chief Wu. Don't worry. I've only obtained 3 sword sources so far. I'll keep them for the time being. When one obtain more sword sources in the future, he'll naturally take them out and divide them equally. Chief Wu laughed. The man snorted and didn't say anything. Lu Ming's lips curled into a cold smile. A sharp glint flashed across Qiuyu's eyes, but the 2 of them did not say anything. The group continued forward, and not long after, Chief Wu sensed something again. There's another sword source ahead. Chief Wu revealed a look of joy. The group moved forward and found a sword source in a kernel. A sword source would protect a relatively small number of sword fiends, only around 3. Let's attack together and exterminate these sword fiends. Wu Chu said. There were only a dozen sword fiends that did not need to be lured away. Lu Ming and the rest had good combat strength. They would probably be useful if they were kept. A cold smile hung on the corner of Wu Chu's mouth. The next moment, his expression suddenly changed. On the other side, a dozen figures flashed and appeared. These were all martial arts experts. They were clearly the ones who had entered the sword tomb before. There were a lot of people in the sword tomb. Every few days, there would be people who would come to take risks in the sword tomb. No one knew how many people were in the sword tomb. Clearly, the other party was also someone who had entered the sword tomb to take risks. The other party also saw Lu Ming and the others. Their gazes were unfriendly, and some of them revealed killing intent. The faces of Wu Chu and the others darkened. "You guys can get lost. That sword source is ours," someone in the crowd said coldly. "You're the ones who should get lost." Chief Wu sneered. How could he miss the sword source that was right in front of him? His gaze shifted and landed on Lu Ming and the rest. "You guys go and stop them." "Well, go and get the sword source." Chief Wu sent a voice transmission to Lu Ming, Chiu Yu, and a few others. These people were the ones who had gone to attract the sword fiend. They were the ones they had found to be the bait. As expected, Lu Ming's lips curled into a cold smile. "You want us to stop them? What a joke. There are many experts among them. If we go over, we'll just be courting death." One refuse. A short and fat man shook his head and refused. There was definitely no lack of experts among those who could form teams to travel in the sword tomb. At least half of the other party's group were absolute saints. There might even be experts in the great circle of the absolute saint realm like Chu Wu. Asking them to stop the other party was clearly asking them to die. Chief Wu's eyes turned cold. "Don't worry. You can stop them for a while. When we get the sword source, we will go and help you. One believe you can stop them in a short time." Chapter 1888, Chapter 1888, Chapter 1888, Counterattack. Chapter 1888, Chapter 1888, Counterattack. Chief Wu's gaze was as sharp as a knife as he looked at Lu Ming and the rest. He said that as long as Lu Ming and the rest could hold on for a while, he would come and help them when they obtained the sword source. "We just asked you to do something, but you're so wishy-washy and hesitant. We let you follow us and block the risks for you, but you can't just eat and drink for free. You have to do something valuable." Beside the Wu area, a burly man with a gloomy expression transmitted a message to them. Lu Ming sneered. Wu Chu and the rest were blocking the risk for them? How laughable. They were clearly being used as bait, and if there was danger, they would attack. It was the same now. They were asked to resist while they seized the sword source. Who knew if they would run away after seizing the sword source? "I'm not going anyway. If you want to fight, you can fight for it. I'm leaving the team. I'd rather risk my life in the sword tomb alone." A brawny man shook his head and refused. He then wanted to leave. But at this moment, Chief Wu suddenly moved. He rose up and clawed at the strong man. The brawny man had never expected Wu Chu to attack him. Even with his initial absolute saint cultivation, he couldn't use it. Furthermore, Wu Chu was a perfected absolute saint. The difference was too great. He couldn't fight back at all. Wu Chu's claw cracked the head of the strong man. The brawny man roared. His eyes were fixed on the scene, filled with anger and unwillingness. "Die!" Wu Chu's power gushed out, and the man's head exploded like a watermelon. His soul was also destroyed in an instant. "It's too late to leave now. Go and stop the other party, or you'll die." Chief Wu sent a voice transmission to Lu Ming and the rest coldly. Lu Ming's and Chiu Yu's eyes were gloomy while the rest of them were pale. On the other side, the dozen or so people also looked at them in surprise. "Hee, we haven't even started the war, and there's already internal strife." One of them sneered. "No matter what they're up to, get ready. We're going to take the sword source, and these people are going to die." One of the people with the strongest aura said coldly. Not only did they want the sword source, but they also wanted to annihilate Lu Ming and the rest. How could finding the source of the sword be faster than killing and snatching the treasure? At Lu Ming's side. "All right, let's make our move." Lu Ming nodded in agreement. The others were helpless and could only nod. "He'll tell you to start. You guys just attack and catch the other party off guard." Chief Wu transmitted his voice and then suddenly roared, "Kill! Buzz! And NBSP whoosh!" Lu Ming and the rest dashed towards the dozen people in a flash. However, before he could get far, Lu Ming's palm was like a knife, slashing down with all his might. A force as large as a mountain suddenly blasted towards the other party. "You're looking for death. Kill them." The leader of the opposing party shouted angrily. More than a dozen people burst out and charged toward Lu Ming and the others. "Retreat, run," Lu Ming shouted in a low voice. He and Qiu Yu turned around abruptly and rushed toward Chief Wu and the rest. The others were stunned for a moment, then immediately fled in other directions. How could they really go up and court death? "You guys are looking for death." When Chief Wu saw that Lu Ming and the rest were running in the opposite direction and were charging towards them, he was instantly enraged. "They're really using us as bait. What a joke." Lu Ming sneered and rushed towards Wu Chu and the rest with Qiu Yu. The other party also rushed towards Wu Chu and the rest. "Little brat, I'll kill you first." A burly man at the Absolute Saint stage launched a fierce attack at Lu Ming. "Get lost." Lu Ming shouted coldly and threw a punch. He crushed the other party's attack in a crushing manner and then collided with the other party's palm. Gotcha! The bones in the other party's hand were directly shattered. He retreated rapidly, revealing a look of disbelief. On the other hand, Lu Ming and Qiu Yu did not linger in the battle. They charged past and dashed into the distance. Then the other side's dozen or so people had already rushed over. All kinds of attacks poured towards Wu Chu and the others. The two sides immediately started to fight. "Damn it, you little bastards, I'll kill you all sooner or later." "Kill?" Chief Wu roared. His eyes were filled with killing intent as he glared at Lu Ming and the other man. Lu Ming was so bold. Not only did he want to escape, but he also led the other party to them. He should be hacked into pieces. "Old man, save your own life first." "Goodbye." Lu Ming laughed out loud. He and Qiu Yu did not stop and they flashed away at top speed. The dozen people saw that Lu Ming was just two young people and did not care at all. They only stared at Wu Chu and the rest and launched a fierce attack. Not long after, Lu Ming and Qiu Yu had left the battlefield and appeared tens of thousands of miles away. The two of them didn't have a fixed direction. Their goal was to find the astral treasure lotus, but they didn't know where it would appear in the sword tomb, so they could only search randomly. The two of them randomly chose a direction and ran forward. Not long after, they discovered two sword sources. On the side, there were about 20 sword fiends guarding them. Since they had encountered each other, the two of them naturally would not give up. Although these sword fiends were strong with their combat strength, they would naturally not be too difficult. The two of them rushed toward the sword source as fast as lightning. Bush. The sword fiends had also discovered Lu Ming and his companion and charged at them. Their bodies were like divine swords, bursting with dazzling sword light as they slashed at the two. Qiu Yu waved her hand, and two curved blades, one hot and one cold, flew out. They continued to spin, and the hot and cold collided, erupting a destructive power that swept forward. A few sword fiends, regardless of whether they were at the Eminent Saint stage or the Absolute Saint stage, were instantly crushed into pieces by the destructive energy. With Qiu Yu's battle power, she could kill ordinary lower-tier Absolute Saints in an instant. Boom, boom. Lu Ming's attacks were more direct. He kept punching out with both fists, and an illusionary image of the prison-suppressing steel appeared and pressed down. All the sword chi that was suppressed by the prison-suppressing steel instantly collapsed. Even two Absolute Saints in the upper tier were killed instantly. The 20 or so sword fiends were cleared out by the two of them in a few breaths. They each grabbed a sword source and flew into the air, leaving the place. 10,000 miles later, in a valley, Lu Ming carefully sized up the sword source in his hand. From the outside, the sword source looked like a real combat sword. However, when Lu Ming's spiritual senses scanned it, he could clearly sense that it was formed by a type of sword energy. Swallow! Devouring power burst out from Lu Ming's palm. The sword source exploded under the devouring power and turned into a stream of energy that was devoured by Lu Ming. Lu Ming sensed it carefully. He realized that the energy of the sword source seemed to be formed by thousands of tiny sword gleams. When they were integrated into Lu Ming's saint energy, They were like countless sharp sword gleams that were tempering Lu Ming's saint energy, making it stronger. Lu Ming started to refine it. More than 2 hours later, Lu Ming had refined all the energy in the sword source. My saint energy has indeed become stronger and more condensed. Lu Ming pondered in his heart. Although the improvement was not big, it was only a small amount. However, this was only one sword source. If he had enough sword sources, his cultivation would definitely increase very quickly. It would be many times faster than normal cultivation. Chapter 1889, Chapter 1889, Chapter 1889, Mutation of the Sword Source. Chapter 1889, Chapter 1889 Mutation of the Sword Source. No wonder so many people entered the sword tomb in search of the source of the sword. Some people's cultivation had reached a bottleneck and it was difficult to improve. However, if they refined the sword source, they might be able to improve further. This was especially so for those who cultivated the sword. The sword source was of great help to them. Lu Ming waited for a while more. Qiu Yu had also finished her cultivation and was refining a sword source. Then, the two of them left the place and continued their search. In the process of looking for the astral treasure lotus, it would be good to obtain some sword sources and improve his cultivation. Not long after, the two of them found another sword source. They put it away temporarily and did not refine it. The sword tomb was really huge and seemed to be boundless. Lu Ming and the rest wandered around for an entire day, but they could not see the end. As for the sword source, he had also obtained 4, so each of them had 2. Buzz. And NBSP whoosh. All of a sudden, a group of figures rushed out from a mountain valley in front of them and surrounded the two of them. There were a total of 8 people. They were either old or middle-aged men. Each of them was filled with killing intent and a strong aura. There were 5 great saints and 3 absolute saints. However, the strongest one was only in the absolute saint upper tier. Lu Ming's lips curled into a cold smile. So it's 2 little brats. One of them sneered, his cold gaze sweeping across Lu Ming and the other man. But this girl is really beautiful. I can enjoy her. A skinny middle-aged man, who was as thin as a bamboo pole, scanned Qiu Yu with a burning gaze. Brat, hand over all the treasures you have. The skinny man said coldly. On average, there would be people entering the sword tomb every few days. Therefore, there were countless people in the sword tomb. There were all kinds of people. There were even some people who were active in the sword tomb all year round. They specialized in killing and plundering other people's treasures and sword sources for cultivation. In the sword tomb, no matter what faction you were from, you would die in vain. No one would know who killed you or how you died. Obviously, these people in front of him were specialized in killing and plundering. They were specifically looking for those who were alone or had a small number of people. 111 give you 3 breaths to get lost. 3. Lu Ming said calmly. What? This kid told us to get lost. One didn't hear wrong, did I? Some people laughed out loud, unable to believe their ears. Judging from Lu Ming and Qiu Yu's age, how old could they be? What cultivation level and combat strength could they have at this age? Asking them to get lost was simply ridiculous. 2. Lu Ming continued to speak. His voice was even colder and filled with a cold, killing intent. The faces of the 8 people on the other side darkened. It seemed that Lu Ming was not joking. Could it be that Lu Ming had some kind of backing? However, from the looks of it, the Lu Ming duo was not even 30 years old. How could they be their match at such a young age? They had been active in the area near the Tai Sword Tomb for more than 100 years. During this period, they had met some young people, but they were no match for them at all. Many people had died at their hands. However, it was the first time they had seen someone as confident as Lu Ming. 1. Lu Ming slowly spat out the last word, his eyes filled with murderous intent. It seems that you don't want to leave. Then 111 fulfill your wish and let you be buried here with the thousands of battle swords. Lu Ming said coldly. Brat, you're talking big. I'd like to see what you're capable of. A great saint in the Great Perfection realm took a heavy step and rushed toward Lu Ming like a cannonball. His saint power and laws exploded and pressed down on Lu Ming like a giant beast. Bang! Lu Ming lifted his leg and kicked out. He moved later but reached first. His foot landed on the other party's dantian. The other party let out a blood-curdling screech as his body was sent flying thousands of meters away. He crashed into a mountain peak that was filled with combat swords, creating a huge pit on the mountain peak. As for himself, he was already exhaling more than inhaling. The remaining 7 people were stunned. A great saint in the Great Perfection realm was like a baby in Lu Ming's hands. He did not even have the strength to resist. Could it be that this person had the battle power of an absolute saint at such a young age? How was that possible? Bang! Lu Ming took a step forward. The aura of a great saint in the Great Circle was fully released. The powerful aura locked onto the other 7 people. He had already given the other party a chance. Since the other party did not grasp it, then he would just kill them all. Anyway, these people were not good people. Many people like Lu Ming and the rest had died in their hands. Qiu Yu stood at the side and did not make a move. She was very clear about Lu Ming's combat strength. She did not need to take action to deal with these people. Let's join forces and kill him. Die? The skinny man shouted. His aura burst forth and he charged at Lu Ming. At the same time, the other 6 people moved as well. Each of them released their aura and a terrifying attack was launched at Lu Ming. Lu Ming stood still. An absolute holy weapon sword appeared in his palm and he swept it out. A full moon-like sword light burst out and slashed in all directions, destroying all the attacks of the other party in an instant. Blood light burst forth and blood chi filled the air. The 7 figures pounced quickly, but they retreated even faster. The 7 figures flew 1,000 meters away and landed heavily on the ground. 6 of them were already dead and were killed by Lu Ming's swordlight. Only the skinny man still had a trace of life and was not dead yet. His eyes were wide open, filled with fear and disbelief. He was just a young man who was less than 30 years old, but he had the cultivation of the great sage accomplished realm. His combat power was even more terrifying. Even he, who had the cultivation of the great sage great mastery, could not withstand a blow. Could it be that the young people these days were all so terrifying? They had been in the sword tomb for over 100 years and had not gone out. Could it be that the outside world had changed? With endless questions, he took his last breath. Lu Ming waved his hand and the 8 people's storage rings appeared in his hand. With a sweep of his spiritual senses, he could see the contents of the storage rings at a glance. These people were really rich. The Ori rocks were piled up like a mountain. It could be seen that they had killed many people over the years. There were also about 10 sword sources in total. The sword source was a consumable item. It was already good enough to have 10 of them. Lu Ming gave half of them to Qiu Yu and left the place. In the next few days, they obtained a few more sword sources, but they still didn't see any trace of the astral treasure lotus. It seemed like it wouldn't be easy to find the great sway treasure lotus. He needed to be prepared for a long battle. There's a sword source there. Suddenly, they found a sword source in front of them. The 2 of them rushed toward it. At this moment, a sudden change occurred. Buzz. The sword hummed as the sword source actually flew up by itself and whizzed towards the depths of the sword tomb. The sword source actually moved on its own? They didn't have much time to think. They stepped on the air and chased after the source of the sword. However, the speed of the sword source was astonishing. It was like a ray of light that disappeared in the blink of an eye. Lu Ming and the other man could not catch up with it. There's one there too. The 2 of them chased for a while before Qiu Yu suddenly pointed in another direction and exclaimed. Chapter 1890, Chapter 1890, Discovering the Grand Lunar Treasure Lotus? Chapter 1890, Discovering the Grand Lunar Treasure Lotus. In another direction, a few sword sources whizzed through the air and flew toward the depths of the sword tomb. Their direction was exactly the same as the sword source that Lu Ming and the others were chasing. What's going on? The 2 of them were puzzled. Why did the sword source fly on its own? It wouldn't have been a big deal if there was only one, but he had seen a few now. The 2 of them continued to chase for a while, getting deeper and deeper into the sword tomb. At this time, they saw more sword sources flying towards the sword tomb. Behind some sword sources, there were people chasing them. No, Qiuyu, wait. Lu Ming stopped and frowned. There was definitely something strange going on in the depths of the sword tomb. Otherwise, how could so many sword sources fly in the same direction? Once an abnormality appeared in a place like this, it was either the birth of a rare treasure or the arrival of a crisis. Lu Ming, are we going to give chase or not? Qiuyu asked. She also felt that something was wrong and continued to pursue, not knowing what she would face. Let's not go in too deep first. Let's see if we can find the astral treasure lotus outside, Lu Ming said. Qiuyu nodded. After that, the two of them didn't go any deeper. They started searching around the outer area. From time to time, they would see the sword source whistling past and flying toward the depths of the sword tomb. They would also see figures flying through the air in pursuit of the sword source. When Lu Ming and the rest were lucky, they could intercept one or two sword sources halfway. Lu Ming, look, that's... Suddenly, Qiuyu exclaimed and pointed to a cliff in front of them. Lu Ming looked in that direction. On the broken cliff, there was a lotus flower. It was as white as jade and crystal clear. The strange thing was that the petals of the lotus were slender and sharp, like divine swords. The grand astral treasure lotus. Lu Ming had seen it in the records of the Dian Elixir Palace and recognized it at a glance. Lu Ming was ecstatic. He had really worn out his iron shoes in a long search but found it without any effort. They had searched for a long time before, but they hadn't found any trace of the grand astral treasure lotus. They hadn't expected to find it when they stopped chasing and searched the outer region. The grand astral treasure lotus is extremely spiritual and can escape on its own. Qiuyu, you stay here and block it. I'll go and take it down. Lu Ming sent a voice transmission to Qiuyu before casting the divine breath spell and flying towards the astral treasure lotus silently. When he was a certain distance away, dense runes appeared on Lu Ming's palm. He pressed his palm on the ground and the runes spread along the ground towards the astral treasure lotus. He wanted to use the Array Dao laws to seal the grand astral treasure lotus and prevent it from escaping. However, just as the Array Dao laws were about to approach the grand sun treasure lotus, it moved. It turned into a white light, like a white sword light, and broke through the sky, flying into the depths of the sword tomb. Not good, we've been discovered. Qiuyu, chase after him. Lu Ming sent a voice transmission to Qiuyu. Then, he used his movement technique and chased after the astral treasure lotus. Lu Ming's speed was extremely fast, and so was the astral treasure lotus. It was no slower than the sword sources, and Lu Ming couldn't catch up to it at all. This grand astral treasure lotus is too sharp. We were so careful, but we were still discovered. Lu Ming was speechless. He could only pursue with all his might. Qiuyu followed closely behind Lu Ming. The direction that the astral treasure lotus was running in was the same as the direction of the sword sources. Endless land flew under his feet. He chased for a few hours, but he still couldn't catch up to the grand astral treasure lotus. At this moment, Lu Ming could not help but miss Bubbles. If he had Bubbles, with the speed of the space-time law and the sealing power, it would not be difficult to capture the astral treasure lotus. After chasing for a while, Lu Ming's pupils suddenly shrank. The scene in front of him made his heart tremble. In front of him was an abyss. Above the abyss, countless sword sources gathered together, dancing continuously. The swords hummed continuously, and the sword chi soared into the sky. There were simply too many of them. They were densely packed together, and it was impossible to tell how many sword sources there were. Around the abyss, there were many figures standing in the air. At a glance, there were no less than hundreds of people. These people surrounded the area, but they didn't take any action to seize the sword source. This was because the scene was too strange. Countless sword sources gathering in the sky above the abyss was unheard of. There must be something wrong with this abnormal situation, so no one acted rashly. Buzz. The grand astral treasure lotus turned into a sword light and disappeared into the abyss. We're in trouble. Lu Ming's face was gloomy. He had finally found the grand astral treasure lotus, but unfortunately, he hadn't been able to take it. He had only been able to watch as it escaped into the abyss. Lu Ming and Qiu Yu stood outside, sizing up the area in front of them. They did not act rashly. Many people looked at the endless source of swords with burning eyes and greed. With so many sword sources, if he refined them, how much would his cultivation improve? However, the situation was strange. Although everyone was greedy, they still maintained their rationality and restrained themselves. "Brat, it's you!" At this moment, an angry roar was heard. The sound of the air being torn apart could be heard, and a few figures flashed toward Lu Ming and the other man. "So it's these few guys." Lu Ming looked in the direction of the voice, and a cold smile appeared at the corners of his lips. The person who flickered over was Wu Chu. At this moment, there were only 2 people left beside him. It was obvious that they had suffered heavy losses. Buzz and NBSP Whoosh. The 3 of them surrounded Lu Ming and Qiu Yu. "Brat, you dare to betray us? They'll let you die a miserable death." Chief Wu glared at Lu Ming furiously, his killing intent extremely strong. Previously, because of Lu Ming, not only did they not get the sword source, but they also had an intense fight with the other party. In the end, many people died in the battle, and only the 3 of them managed to break through the siege. They naturally blamed everything on Lu Ming and the rest. If Lu Ming and the rest had followed his plan, would they have suffered such losses? "Betray you? What a joke! I joined your team only to cooperate. And you used us as bait from the start. Do you think I would be so stupid as to throw my life away for you?" Lu Ming smiled faintly with a strong sense of disdain. "The weak should have the awareness of the weak." Wu Chu said coldly. "Weaklings? Hee hee, you're already so old, but you're only at the absolute saint realm. Do you think you're very strong?" Lu Ming was fearless. "Strong or not, it's enough to kill you." Wu Chu took a step forward, and his absolute saint in the great circle was unleashed. His withered claws grabbed at Lu Ming with a terrifying whistling sound. Lu Ming's eyes lit up. He activated the prison-suppressing heaven technique and threw a punch. Bang! Lu Ming's fist collided with Chief Wu's claw. With a loud boom, the 2 of them were pushed back slightly. "How is that possible?" Wu Chu's eyes suddenly widened, filled with disbelief. How is it possible that Lu Ming could block his attack? It was unbelievable that a great saint in the Great Circle could block the attack of an absolute saint in the Great Circle. The others in the surroundings were also shocked. "That's the law of chaos. He's a son of chaos," someone exclaimed. Chapter 1891. Chapter 1891. Chapter 1891. Killing Chief Wu. Chapter 1891. Chapter 1891. Killing Chief Wu. Many people recognized Lu Ming's chaos law and exclaimed in shock. Unexpectedly, a son of chaos had appeared here. No wonder his combat strength was so terrifying. Chief Wu's heart trembled, his eyes filled with disbelief. He had actually provoked a son of chaos. But then, the killing intent in his eyes grew. Since he had already offended them, he would kill them to get rid of future trouble. Otherwise, he would be the one to die in the future. He was a decisive person. After making his decision, he immediately said, "Let's go and kill him together." He said to the other 2. "Buzz." Qiu Yu walked in the air with 2 curved blades floating around her. She said, "Lu Ming, leave these 2 to me." "All right." Lu Ming nodded. Although the other 2 people had high cultivation, one was a complete absolute saint and the other was a peak absolute saint, Qiu Yu would have no problem blocking them. Qiu Yu walked in the air, surrounded by the laws of yin and yang. She charged towards the 2, and the 2 of them immediately began to fight. "Kill!" Lu Ming shouted and used the divine sword technique. His soul was like a sword, stabbing at his opponent. At the same time, Lu Ming extended his finger and pointed at the void. In the void, endless energy gathered and formed a huge finger that pressed down on Chief Wu. Wu Chu's pupils constricted and he felt a chill in his heart, as if he was facing a fatal crisis. Heavenly Astral Divine Claw. Wu Chu roared and used all his strength to use a sacred art. A huge claw formed and grabbed at the chaos finger of tribulation. Boom! and NBSP, the massive claw, clashed with the primal chaos tribulation finger. The void trembled violently. In the next moment, Wu Chu's claw collapsed under his horrified eyes. The powerful force of the chaotic tribulation finger hit him, causing him to spit out blood and fall heavily to the ground. Wu Chu's battle power wasn't very strong among those in the great circle of the Absolute Saint realm. His divine power was only at 85%, and it was just ordinary nomological laws. How could it compare to the chaotic finger, which was at 80%? It was far too inferior. One move and Chi Fu was severely injured. The attack just now was Lu Ming's strongest attack. Chaos finger. Lu Ming pointed with his finger again, and another chaos finger of tribulation was formed. Wu Chu revealed a look of despair as he tried to block. However, after this attack, his injuries became even more severe, and half of his body almost exploded. When facing ordinary martial artists, Lu Ming could completely cross a realm and kill his opponents. Boom, boom. Following that, Lu Ming continued to swing his fists. The terrifying fist force drowned out Area Wu. Wu Chu howled and let out an unwilling roar. He tried his best to resist, but gradually his voice became smaller and smaller until it disappeared. By the time Lu Ming stopped, Wu Chu had already disappeared. His body and soul had been destroyed, leaving only a storage ring on the ground. Lu Ming waved his hand and kept Wu Chu's storage ring. The two people who were fighting with Chiu Yu were terrified. The pinnacle Absolute Saint broke through Chiu Yu's attack and tried to escape. "Do you think you can escape?" Lu Ming said coldly. His body flickered and he caught up to the man in an instant. He pointed a finger and the chaotic finger of tribulation formed, crushing toward the man. The man screamed as his body was torn apart and he died on the spot. An Absolute Saint at the peak was killed by Lu Ming in an instant. The remaining Absolute Saint was also turned into ashes by Chiu Yu's destructive energy. The fact that the three experts had died so quickly at the hands of two young men made the expressions of the people nearby turn extremely grave. The Son of Chaos is truly astonishing. His battle prowess is heaven-defying. It's better not to provoke such a peerless genius. There's probably a terrifying force supporting him. Some people were discussing and looking at Lu Ming and Lin Feng with grave eyes. Lu Ming and Chiu Yu stood on one side, looking at the abyss. The others also focused their attention on the endless sword source. As time passed, more and more people gathered, causing many people's faces to turn gloomy. "I don't care anymore. If we continue, there will be more and more people. By then, we won't be able to get many sword sources. I'd like to give it a try and see if there's anything strange about it." Finally, someone couldn't take it anymore. An old man stepped out and rushed toward the source of the sword. He saw that he was approaching the source of the sword, but there was nothing unusual. "Catch!" The elder reached out with his hand, which was formed by Saint Power, and grabbed at the sword source. The big hand grabbed down, but there was still nothing unusual. The old man grabbed more than a dozen sword sources and put them away. Haha. The old man was ecstatic. There was no danger at all. They had been overthinking. When the others saw that there was no danger, they all revealed greedy expressions and were about to take action to fight for the sword source. At this time, a terrifying sword light suddenly slashed out from the abyss below. Not good. The old man's expression changed drastically. With a wave of his hand, he laid down layers of defense in an attempt to resist. However, as the sword light slashed past, the old man's defense instantly collapsed. The sword light did not stop. With one slash, the old man screamed as his body was cut in half. His corpse fell into the abyss and disappeared. Everyone was shocked and stopped in their tracks. "There's someone in the abyss!" Someone exclaimed. Sure enough, at the bottom of the abyss, a man holding a long sword stepped out. It was a middle-aged man in a brocade robe. His aura was extremely shocking. He had reached the perfected Absolute Saint realm. It was obvious that this was the person who had slashed out with the sword. There was actually someone in the abyss? Could it be that the source of the sword was gathered because of this person? "Kill!" He roared, and sword chi whistled through the air as he charged toward the crowd. "He's just a complete Absolute Saint. Let's kill him together." Someone roared and launched a counterattack. Then, someone else made a move. There were many experts who entered the sword tomb to explore. They came from all over the Yuan Mountain. The worst of them were usually supreme saints. Many of them were absolute saints, and there was no lack of perfected absolute saints. 3 absolute saints in the Great Circle attacked and fought with the person who had walked out of the abyss. 3 versus 1. The person who walked out of the abyss was naturally no match, but this person seemed to be fearless of death. He attacked with all his might and did not care about defense. Something's wrong. This person doesn't seem to have any spiritual intelligence. He only knows how to attack. Lu Ming's gaze flickered. He realized that the person who walked out of the abyss had a blank look in his eyes. He was like a walking corpse. Not good. Someone has walked out of the abyss. Someone shouted. Everyone looked over and saw more figures appearing in the abyss. It wasn't just 1 or 2, but many. One by one, figures appeared, full of cold killing intent. As soon as they appeared, they attacked the crowd in all directions. That's the sect master of the Round Blade sect. I know him. I heard that he has been adventuring in the sword tomb. So he's here? That's wind-chasing sword Lu Shilang. He doesn't seem to recognize me at all. Exclamations rang out one after another. These people seemed to be the adventurers who had entered the sword tomb and were familiar with some of the people present. However, they seemed to have lost their minds and only knew how to kill. Chapter 1892, Chapter 1892, The People in the Abyss? Chapter 1892, The People in the Abyss. From the abyss, figures kept stepping out. Without a word, they charged at the crowd. In the end, more than 100 people stepped out. They were all strong and most of them were absolute saints. They were fearless and very difficult to deal with. The scene fell into chaos. These people are just walking corpses. Let's join forces and kill them. Someone shouted. There were at least 300 to 400 people who had come to this place, and they were all experts. They joined forces, several against one, and killed the people who had come out of the abyss. At that moment, Lu Ming saw a person and he was shocked. That was because Lu Ming actually knew one of them. The sect leader of the Life and Death Sword sect. Lu Ming had never expected to see the sect leader of the Life and Death Sword sect here. Back in the Azure region, they had been ambushed by evil spirit and had broken out of the encirclement together. The Life and Death Sword sect's main gate had brought Luo Xiang and successfully broken out of the encirclement, but who would have thought that they would appear in the sword tomb? Moreover, the sect leader was the same as those who had walked out of the abyss. He had completely lost his mind and his eyes were empty. All that was left was his cultivation and combat power. The Life-Death Sword sect leader's Life-Death Sword technique was extremely terrifying. With one strike, an absolute Saint Realm Master's forehead was pierced. Junior brother, you're looking for death. An old man roared and charged at the sect leader. This person was at the peak of the absolute Saint Realm. With one strike, he destroyed the sect leader's attack. The battle blade didn't stop and continued to attack the sect leader. Lu Ming took a step forward and threw a punch, sending the man's saber flying. What are you doing? This person is crazy and has no spiritual intelligence. That person shouted. I'll deal with it. Let's go, Lu Ming said indifferently. The absolute saint at the peak was very afraid of Lu Ming, gritted his teeth and left, killing the other people who had walked out of the abyss. The sect leader of the Life and Death Sword sect attacked again. The sword light pierced through the air, and it was extremely terrifying. Lu Ming could tell that the sect leader of the Life and Death Sword sect was at the mastery of the absolute saint realm. Lu Ming threw a punch and destroyed the sword gleam of the Life and Death Sword sect leader. Senior, wake up. Lu Ming shouted. Il's voice rumbled like thunder, blasting into the head of the Life and Death Sword sect. Kill! The sect leader of the Life and Death Sword sect did not seem to notice anything and continued to attack Lu Ming. Lu Ming blocked the other party's attack and shouted continuously. However, the other party did not react at all. Lu Ming, this person's soul seems to have been destroyed. Chiu Yu appeared beside Lu Ming and said, "What's going on?" Lu Ming furrowed his eyebrows tightly. The sect leader of the Life and Death Sword sect used to have a good relationship with Dragon God Valley. They had fought together against an enemy. Lu Ming really did not want to see the sect leader of the Life and Death Sword sect fall, but it was a pity that there was nothing he could do to reverse the situation. "Lu Ming, is this someone you know? However, the other party has indeed fallen. If you can't bear it, you can give it to someone else." Chiu Yu said. Lu Ming nodded. Fai and Chiu Yu retreated at top speed and attacked the other people who walked out of the abyss. As for the sect leader, he continued to attack the others. However, there were more people outside. Soon, the sect leader was surrounded by a few masters. His body exploded and he fell into the abyss. Lu Ming sighed. He was the master of a sect in the Azure continent, an overlord of a region. After leaving the Azure continent, he had ended up in such a state. He had escaped from evil spirit, but he had ultimately fallen here. Lu Ming could not help but think of Luo Xiong, who was with the sect leader of the Life and Death Sword sect. How was he? He was an upright person and also a terrifying heaven's favorite. He had stayed in the same realm and nurtured his sword soul for 15 years. No one knew what kind of achievements he would have in the future. Had he also fallen? Lu Ming's thoughts were running wild, but he did not stop his attacks. He killed 2 people who walked out of the abyss in succession. Those who walked out of the abyss were few in number and were eventually surrounded and annihilated one by one. However, these people were very strong and fearless. The people outside had also paid a heavy price. About 100 people were killed, and their blood dyed the ground red. When the last person who walked out of the abyss was killed, everyone's eyes turned back to the abyss. Was there anyone else in the abyss? Why did those people look like zombies? Were they being controlled? Many people's eyes flickered with various thoughts. However, no one dared to go up and seize the sword source. Bush. At this moment, the sword sources gathered together and flew down toward the abyss. In less than a minute, the endless sword source flew into the abyss and disappeared. Everyone looked at each other. All the sword sources had flown into the abyss. What should he do? Should he go down? However, the abyss was extremely mysterious and terrifying. Earlier, more than 100 experts had walked out of the abyss. All of them had lost their spiritual intelligence and were like walking corpses, only knowing how to kill. What was in the abyss? Was there a treasure that attracted the sword source, or was there some kind of danger? Everyone looked at each other, all thinking that the others would go down first to explore the way, and if there was danger, they could retreat in time. Everyone was thinking the same thing, so who would take the lead? After a moment of silence, someone finally spoke. "Everyone, we can't go on like this. Why don't we join forces and go down to explore?" A purple-robed elder suggested. "Alright, I agree. Rather than this stalemate, why don't we join forces and explore?" A tall and sturdy man said, "If you want to go down, take a few steps forward. If you don't want to go down, retreat. We won't force you." The purple-robed elder spoke and stepped forward first. Then, the brawny man also stepped forward. Some people muttered to themselves for a moment before stepping forward as well. The endless sword source was an irresistible temptation. If he could get a part of it, his cultivation would definitely improve quickly. This was especially so for those who cultivated the sword. Not only could they increase their cultivation, but they could also temper their sword techniques and increase their comprehension of the laws of Rhe sword. Even if it was dangerous, it was worth it. Lu Ming and Chiu Yu also stepped forward. The astral treasure lotus had escaped into the abyss. No matter what, they had to go down and find it. Otherwise, they didn't know when they would be able to find it. However, not everyone wanted to go down and take a look. Some of them shook their heads and took a few steps back. The abyss was too strange, and no one could predict what dangers there would be. If they lost their lives, what was the use of getting the source of the sword? However, the number of people who retreated was small. More people planned to go down and explore. Everyone, those who don't want to go down, let them stay here forever. A cold glint flashed in the purple-robed elder's eyes as he sent a message to Lu Ming and the rest. Why? Someone's eyes flashed as he asked. These people who don't want to go down have unfathomable motives. Most likely, they want us to go down first to explore the way. Who knows if they will go down after we go down? Flo, can there be such a good deal in this world? Also, some people are probably waiting for us to come out before launching a sneak attack on us. If we get injured, we'll be killed by these rats. That's why we can't let these people live. The purple-robed elder continued to transmit his voice. Chapter 1893, Chapter 1893, Meeting Luo Xiang Again, the Strange Sword Fiend. Chapter 1893, Meeting Luo Xiang Again, the Strange Sword Fiend. The purple-robed elder's words made many people's eyes flash. That's right. We can't let these people live. If we let them live, they might bring trouble to us. The burly man also said coldly. I also think we can't keep them. Then kill them. The others spoke up one after another. Of course, they were all using voice transmission, so those who chose to stay could not hear them at all. Good. Then let's kill them first, then go down and surround them. Don't let them escape. The purple-robed elder spoke. In an instant, everyone's figures flashed and surrounded those who chose to stay. Lu Ming and Qiu Yu did not move. Although the world of martial arts was cruel and the strong preyed on the weak, Lu Ming and Qiu Yu had their own principles. These people had no enmity with them and they would not kill them for this reason. Of course, they would not stop him. What are you guys doing? The expressions of those who stayed behind changed drastically. Kill! The purple-robed old man shouted coldly. They made their move. A dazzling and deadly light burst out, killing those who stayed behind. Those who chose to stay were already in the minority. How could they resist? They were instantly killed one by one. You guys? He's too vicious. Someone howled, extremely unwilling. Laughable. The brawny man sneered and killed the man with a slash. In just a few minutes, those who stayed behind were all killed. With a single thought, those people would face death. All right, there's nothing to worry about now. Let's go down, the purple-robed elder said. After that, everyone got into formation and carefully flew toward the abyss. Looking down from above the abyss, it was pitch black and nothing could be seen. Surrender! The purple-robed elder's cultivation was unfathomable. He was an emperor to be expert, so everyone naturally took him as their leader. As soon as he finished speaking, everyone flew down the abyss. The abyss was very deep, and they only reached the bottom after descending for tens of thousands of feet. As soon as he landed, Lu Ming looked in one direction in shock. In that direction, there was a huge sword stuck in the ground. It was at least 100 meters tall and extremely huge. Under the huge sword, a figure sat cross-legged with his eyes closed. No aura could be sensed from his body. Luo Xiang. Lu Ming muttered. Luo Xiang was indeed under the abyss. However, Luo Xiang didn't fight his way out of the abyss like his master. the sect leader of the Life and Death Sword sect. Instead, he sat under the giant sword, and no one could sense his aura. Could it be that he had already fallen? Lu Ming could not help but feel that it was a pity. Although he didn't have much contact with Luo Xiang, he could feel that this person was an open and above-board person. He was born for the sword and was a true swordsman. Then, Lu Ming's gaze turned to another direction. There, endless sword sources gathered and circled. Under the endless sword source, a figure was staring at Lu Ming and the others with sharp eyes. This is a sword fiend. Lu Ming's heart trembled. The figure under the endless sword source was clearly a sword fiend. However, this sword fiend was completely different from the sword fiends that Lu Ming had seen before. This sword fiend was not only more solid in form, but its eyes also shone with wisdom. This sword fiend had intelligence. The others also noticed the sword fiend and their expressions turned grave. Lu Ming, the Grand Astral Treasure Lotus. Qiu Yu nudged Lu Ming and said softly. Lu Ming followed Qiu Yu's gaze and realized that the Grand Lunar Treasure Lotus was rooted on a pile of bones. The lotus petals swayed gently, rippling with sword qi. You're all here. Just in time, let's sacrifice you to my sword. The sword fiend let out an ear-piercing laugh. How is that possible? Didn't the sword fiend not have any intelligence? This sword fiend, how did it gain sentience? Could it be that the people who walked out of the abyss before were all controlled by him? The gathering of the sword source is also because of him? Many people's expressions changed and they were shocked. Some people had been in the Tai sword tomb for many years, but they had never heard that the sword fiend could give birth to a spirit. They had never seen the source of the sword gather here. Today, one will use your blood as a sacrifice to the sword. Condense. Jiansha shouted and raised his palm. The endless sword source gathered towards Jiansha's arm and formed a huge combat sword. At the same time, from above the abyss, wisps of blood qi gathered on the sword fiend, making his body more solid. The blood qi was the blood of those who had died in battle above the abyss. Could it be that the reason why those people had come out and fought with them was because they needed blood? Many people's expressions turned ugly when they thought of this. Boom! A terrifying aura burst out from Jiansha's body. This aura was extremely powerful and superior. It was even more powerful and pure than the aura of the purple-robed elder, an emperor-to-be. That was emperor pressure. Everyone's expression changed. A pure emperor pressure. This was an emperor-ranked powerhouse. There was actually a monarch-level expert hiding under the abyss. Many people's hearts trembled, and they felt a chill all over their bodies. Let's go! Someone roared and rose into the air, rushing toward the top of the abyss, trying to escape. Against an emperor-level expert, no matter how many people they had, it was useless. Only death awaited them. Hee, one told you, I'll use your blood as a sacrifice to my sword to help me reach the final step. All of you stay. Jiansha laughed coldly. He raised the giant sword that was formed by endless sword source high up in the air. Instantly, endless sword light condensed in the sky. These sword lights were like battle swords, with the tip pointing down and showing off its sharpness, blocking all directions. Kill! The sword fiend let out another cold cry, and endless sword light, covering the sky and earth, stabbed down towards everyone. Instantly, a series of screams rang out. One figure after another was either pierced by the sword light or cut in half. Their souls were annihilated and they died here. After these people died, their blood gathered towards the sword fiend, making his aura even stronger. The yin-yang wheel. Qiu Yu shouted as a wheel appeared on her forehead. This wheel emitted a cold qi on one side and a hot qi on the other. The two combined and triggered a terrifying pressure. It was the Emperor's might, and it was obvious that this was a monarch weapon. The yin-yang wheel hovered above Qiu Yu's head and cast a light screen that enveloped Lu Ming and Qiu Yu. Thump! Boom! The sword radiances struck the light screen cast by the yin-yang wheel. The light screen shook violently and rippled, but it still managed to block the attack of the sword radiances. There was a flash of light between Lu Ming's brows. He had wanted to use the Tai Chi formation disc to block it, but after seeing that Qiu Yu could block it, he did not use it. Leaving some trump cards to catch people off guard might be of great use at a critical moment. After a wave of sword light, there were only 20 people left. Chapter 1894, Chapter 1894, Chapter 1894, Obtaining the Grand Astral Treasure Lotus? Chapter 1894, Chapter 1894 Obtaining the Grand Astral Treasure Lotus. When they came down, there were hundreds of people, but all of a sudden, there were only about 20 people left. The weakest of the remaining 20-odd people was at the perfected Absolute Saint realm. In other words, those below the perfected Absolute Saint realm had all been killed by that wave of attacks. Even many of the Absolute Saints in the Great Circle who had survived were injured. What a terrifying attack! Normal Absolute Saints wouldn't be able to fight back. A monarch weapon! The Sword Fiend's cold gaze swept across Chiu Yu and Lu Ming. Run, run, run! At this moment, the remaining people were extremely frightened and madly rushed to the sky above the abyss. Lu Ming and Chiu Yu also rushed up from another direction. There were more than 20 rainbow lights, and their speed was astonishing. But the Sword Fiend's speed was faster. He took a step forward and appeared above everyone. Endless sword light began to gather. This time, the endless sword lights merged together, leaving only 20 sword lights. However, the power of each sword light increased dramatically, giving people a terrifying feeling. "I'll use your blood as an offering to my sword." Kill. The Sword Fiend bellowed, and more than 20 sword lights charged toward Lu Ming and the rest. On average, each person had one sword light. Everyone used all their strength to block it, but some of them couldn't even block it. As the sword light flashed, all their attacks and defenses collapsed in an instant. Another dozen or so people were killed and left here forever. These people were all experts in the Great Circle of the Absolute Saint realm. Only a small number of Absolute Saints in the perfected Absolute Saint stage were able to block the attack with their secret treasures, but they were still heavily injured. As for Chiu Yu, she tried her best to control the yin-yang wheel to block it. Although she managed to block it, Chiu Yu's body trembled and blood flowed from the corner of her mouth. Other than them, there were two other people who had blocked the sword light and were unscathed. One of them was the purple-robed old man from before. He was in the Emperor-to-be realm and was surrounded by the River of Laws, which destroyed the sword light in one fell swoop. The other person was a woman in a palace dress. She also had the cultivation of an Emperor-to-be and defeated the sword light. The two Emperors-to-be broke the sword light and rushed upward. Even an Emperor-to-be has to die. Jian Sha sneered and waved the giant sword in his hand. Endless sword light appeared again, then converged into several sword lights and slashed at the two Emperor-to-be. Break! The two Emperors-to-be shouted, and the River of Laws formed a terrible attack, clashing with the sword light. But this time, the sword light was obviously stronger. The two Emperors-to-be trembled and were blown down. This sword fiend hasn't completely become a divine emperor yet. We still have a chance. Let's work together and charge out. If we split up, we'll all die. The purple-robed elder roared. A purple river of laws surrounded him, and he turned into a purple light, rushing to the woman's side. At the same time, the remaining Absolute Saints in the Great Circle also charged toward them. Chiu Yu was about to go over but was stopped by Lu Ming. "Let's not go there. We're going to get the Grand Lunar Treasure Lotus." Lu Ming secretly sent a message to Chiu Yu. They did not rush toward the purple-robed elder and the others. Instead, they rushed toward the Astral Treasure Lotus. The purple-robed elder and the others gathered together and charged upwards. The sword fiend cast a cold glance at Lu Ming and the other man, then ignored them. He looked at the purple-robed elder and the rest and sneered, "Although I'm close to becoming a Saint Emperor, killing you is more than enough. After killing you, 111 use your blood to help me become a Saint Emperor. Condense." As the sword fiend said the last word, endless sword light gathered and finally turned into 3 huge sword lights. They slashed at the purple-robed elder and the others from 3 directions. Boom, boom, boom. There were 3 terrifying attacks, and endless sword chi filled the air. It left many hideous sword marks in the valley. Several screams were heard. The remaining absolute saints in the Great Circle were killed by the terrifying power. Only 2 emperors-to-be survived. However, the faces of the 2 emperors-to-be were pale. Why aren't you 2 joining forces? Do you want to die here together? The purple-robed elder roared, clearly directed at Lu Ming and the other man. However, Lu Ming did not seem to hear her. He pulled Xiao Yu and rushed towards the astral treasure lotus. He felt a terrifying danger from the sword fiend. He had a feeling that even if he joined forces with the purple-robed elder and the others, they would not be able to break out. He could only rush out by using a strange move. Damn it! The purple-robed elder roared and joined hands with the woman. The 2 rivers of laws turned into a terrifying attack and blasted upwards. Jian Sha took a step forward and the 3 rays of sword light formed again, slashing towards the purple-robed elder and the other man. The purple-robed elder and the woman's bodies trembled as they were forced to retreat. They were completely at a disadvantage. At this moment, Lu Ming was already approaching the astral treasure lotus. The sword fiend's eyes narrowed, and the huge sword in his hand, which was condensed from the sword source, shook slightly. Dozens of terrifying sword lights shot toward Lu Ming and the other man. Tai Chi formation plate. Lu Ming's mind moved and the space between his brows glowed. The Tai Chi formation disc appeared and expanded rapidly, shielding the 2 of them. Buzz, buzz, and NBSP whoosh. The sword light landed on the Tai Chi formation disc, causing it to shake violently and send out sparks. However, the Tai Chi formation disc was an emperor-level treasure. It was so strong that not a single mark was left on it. Lu Ming and Xiao Yu continued to rush towards the Grand Lunar Treasure Lotus. The petals of the Astral Treasure Lotus rippled. It seemed to have sensed Lu Ming and the other man and was about to escape. "Seal, go," Lu Ming said. Then, dense runes suddenly appeared on the ground around the Astral Treasure Lotus. These runes formed a sealing force that was like a huge net that enveloped the Grand Astral Treasure Lotus. The Grand Astral Treasure Lotus released a dazzling sword chi that rushed left and right, trying to rush out, but it was blocked by the seal. With his previous experience, Lu Ming would not hold back. In the process of the attack, Lu Ming had secretly penetrated the array Dao laws into the ground and reached the vicinity of the Grand Astral Treasure Lotus. Then, it suddenly attacked and sealed the Grand Lunar Treasure Lotus. Lu Ming and Xiao Yu rushed past him. Lu Ming grabbed the Grand Astral Treasure Lotus and placed it into the mountain and river diagram. "Let's go!" Lu Ming and Xiao Yu transformed into 2 beams of light and shot into the sky above the abyss from another direction. "If you want to leave, then all of you stay," Jian Sha coldly spoke. Today, he definitely couldn't allow anyone to leave. If someone left and news of him was spread out, it would attract true emperor-ranked experts. If that happened, he would be finished. He waved the huge sword in his hand and beams of sword light appeared above Lu Ming and Xiao Yu's heads, slashing down at them. Lu Ming blocked the attack with the Tai Chi formation disc. All the sword gleams struck the Tai Chi formation disc, causing it to vibrate. Lu Ming and Xiao Yu's figures were also blocked. "Kill!" The sword fiend blocked Lu Ming and Xiao Yu with his sword gleam and focused more of his energy on the purple-robed elder and the woman in the palatial dress. The 3 huge sword lights that were attacking the purple-robed elder and the woman in the palace dress gathered together again to form an even bigger sword light. The aura that this sword light gave off was even more terrifying. Chapter 1895, Chapter 1895, Chapter 1895, Danger. Chapter 1895, Chapter 1895 Danger Buzz. Even with the purple-robed elder and the woman's cultivation, they almost couldn't block the sword light. The river of laws was almost pierced through, and blood spurted out of their mouths. However, to their despair, the giant sword slashed down again, and they could only try their best to block it. Chuyue, you enter the mountain and river diagram. Lu Ming sent a voice transmission to Chiuyu. The mountain and river diagram flew out and kept Chiuyu in it. Lu Ming's glabella glowed again and he took out the Dian elixir furnace. Lu Ming rushed into the furnace and controlled it to fly upwards. The Dian elixir furnace was the most important treasure of the Dian elixir palace. No one knew what level it was, but it was definitely above the Tai Chi formation disc. Clang, clang, clang. The sword radiance continued to slash at the Dian elixir furnace, causing it to tremble. However, it was still slowly moving upwards. This was Lu Ming's plan. He would let the two emperor-to-be, the purple-robed elder and the woman in palace attire, hold off the sword fiend while he rushed out with the Dian elixir furnace. If he was with the purple-robed elder and the others, they would not be able to escape from the sword fiend's full-force attack. Jian Sha's eyes also changed slightly. The purple-robed elder's face was as white as snow. To have so many treasures on him. He roared. Each one was stronger than the last. Down, if this went on, he would not have time to deal with clothing and turned into ashes. Lu Ming might really be able to get out of here. He pushed the woman towards the sword fiend. Don't even think about it. But he himself only lived for a few more breaths. These treasures are all mine. In the Dian elixir growled and his body was filled with a bloody light. Drastically. The blood light was the blood light he had just absorbed. Sword lights to stop him. It flowed out of his body like water. He had not charged too far. Strange. Moreover, then he didn't expect that the purple-robed elder and the woman in palace attire, like a flame. Two emperor-to-be experts would be killed so quickly. Turned into a terrifying sword of slaughter. Sword fiend had clearly used a method to temporarily increase his combat power, huge sword light that had attacked the purple-robed elder and the others close to that of an emperor-level expert. And fused together, it's your turn making now. The aura of the huge sword in the sword fiend's hand. He took a step forward and appeared above the Dian elixir furnace. The sword fiend stepped in the air, and the giant sword in his hand slashed down at the purple-robed elder and the woman in the palace dress, causing it to shake violently. The terrifying sword like a cannonball covered the sky. It fell into the abyss. It was so terrifying that even the space trembled as if it had the power to split the sky. A huge pit that was 100 meters deep was created on the elder and the woman's expression was embedded in the deep pit. The power of this sword had exceeded the scope of an emperor-to-be and was infinitely close to the attack of a martial emperor. Although he had the protection of the Dian elixir furnace, and the other party could not break it, the purple-robed cultivation was limited after all, and his eyes could not unleash the power of the Dian elixir furnace at all. He suddenly struck out and hit the woman in the palace dress with his far inferior to his flying into the sky towards the sword. His opponent's strength had injured Lu Ming just by shaking the Pylai furnace. The woman in the court dress treasure is really amazing, filled with endless anger and fear. Not only am I going to step into the emperor tier today in order to save her life, she could only use all rare treasures to resist. The heavens are really helping all of her techniques. The sword, even her saint weapon, appeared above all of them were in vain against the slashing at it again. The giant sword, the Dian elixir furnace, and all of the woman's defenses, and the terrifying power caused the surrounding ground to explode. This kid, the 100-meter deep pit exploded again and became even larger. The Dian elixir furnace trembled and produced a terrifying force that bombarded Lu Ming's body. If he could get his hands on Lu Ming's monarch weapon, his chances of and his injuries would be greatly increased. We can't continue like this. Jian Sha would not let him do as he wished. Spinning rapidly, trying to find a way to escape. After the sword fiend in such an environment, he could not escape at all, and he appeared above the difference in strength between him and his opponent was too great. Even the Dian elixir furnace couldn't protect him. If this went on, he would be shaken to death sooner or later. He might even exhaust his saint power and lose control of the Dian elixir furnace. Let's see how long you can hide. The sword fiend shouted, and the huge sword in his hand, which was condensed from countless sword sources, kept slashing at the Dian elixir furnace. The entire abyss was shaking. Spider web-like cracks appeared on the ground, spreading in all directions. In the Dian elixir furnace, Lu Ming exerted all his strength. The laws of chaos protected his body and the holy power filled his body. However, the terrifying vibration continued to hit him, causing his injuries to worsen. Not long after, the sword fiend had attacked for more than 100 times. Lu Ming's aura was extremely weak and he was severely injured. Not good. Suddenly, Lu Ming's expression changed. He felt that he was starting to have difficulty controlling the Dian elixir furnace. Boom. As expected, when the sword fiend slashed down again, the Dian elixir furnace trembled and began to shrink rapidly. Finally, it turned into a ray of light and flew into the space between Lu Ming's eyebrows, disappearing. Lu Ming's body appeared in the deep pit. "Ah, kid, you finally come out. Let's see how you're going to stop me now." Sword Fiend laughed sinisterly, his killing intent thick. In order to deal with Lu Ming, he had expended a large amount of Yuan Qi. Now, he was not even confident that he could break through to the martial emperor realm. All of this was Lu Ming's fault. He would make Lu Ming die an ugly death. Chapter 1896, Chapter 1896, The Celestial the Arch Sword Moves. Chapter 1896, The Celestial the Arch Sword Moves, What do we do? Lu Ming's mind was rapidly thinking of countermeasures. Now, Lu Ming had one last option, which was to enter the mountain and river diagram. However, once he entered the mountain and river diagram, it would be exposed to the other party and would be controlled by him. Moreover, he wasn't confident that the mountain and river diagram could block his opponent. The mountain and river diagram was only a grotto heaven treasure, and its defensive power couldn't be as strong as the Dian elixir furnace. Once he entered the mountain and river diagram, he would be completely passive and at the mercy of others. Are we going to die here today? Lu Ming clenched his fists tightly and was extremely unwilling. In his life, he had experienced many difficulties and dangers. He had experienced all kinds of dangers and had overcome them one by one. He was not willing to die just like that. He wanted to step onto the peak of martial arts. Die! At this moment, the sword fiend shouted coldly. He did not waste any more words, and the huge sword in his hand slashed towards Lu Ming. This sword could kill an emperor-to-be in seconds. It was so powerful that it was shocking. The sword had yet to reach him, but the terrifying pressure had already made it difficult for Lu Ming to move. The powerful pressure pressed down on Lu Ming's body, causing his bones to creak as if they were about to break. There was no way to block this sword. No, I can't die. I have family and friends who need my protection. My parents need my protection. Don't know where little Qing is now. Have to find her, and also Xiang Xiang. Once I die, Chiu you will die as well. I can't die. I want to reach the peak and change my fate. Lu Ming roared in his heart and his fighting spirit burst forth. Even in a desperate situation, he was unwilling. Even if he was no match, he still wanted to fight. Even if he were to die, he would fight to his death. His eyes were filled with an unyielding look. Unyielding to the sword fiend, unyielding to fate. Buzz. At this moment, the sound of a sword rang through the 9 heavens. Inside the mountain and river diagram, a stone sword directly broke through the barrier of the mountain and river diagram and flew out, floating above Lu Ming's head. A terrifying sword light burst out from the stone sword and rushed into the sky. The sword light that the sword fiend had sent down was shattered by the sword light. This is the Celestial Emperor's sword. Lu Ming had never expected that the Celestial the Arch Sword would suddenly rush out and block the other party's sword at the critical moment. This sword, Jian Shasuke's, also fell on the Celestial Emperor's sword. For some reason, when he saw the sword, his heart trembled. It's a divine sword, a peerless divine sword. If I can get my hands on this sword, my cultivation will instantly break through the shackles and reach the martial emperor realm. I might even be able to reach an even higher realm in the future. Sword Fiend's eyes glowed with a fiery light. He was a sword fiend that had been inadvertently born in Ardi Sword Tomb after countless years, and he had intelligence. However, his inborn talent was lacking. Unlike the human race, it was extremely difficult for him to advance. It was much more difficult than the human race, the demon race, and the divine beasts. He had cultivated arduously for many years and had finally found the opportunity to break through to the martial supreme realm. However, because of Lu Ming, the opportunity to make a breakthrough had become mysterious again. However, Lu Ming actually had a peerless divine sword in his hands. He had a feeling that as long as he obtained this peerless divine sword, he would be able to rise up in the future. Even his cultivation speed would soar. He had to get this sword. At this moment, the giant sword on Luo Xiang's back started to shake as if it was going to break out of the ground. The light on the sword became even more brilliant, and a more powerful suction force enveloped the sword fiend. The sword fiend revealed a terrified expression and shouted, "No, don't!" He struggled madly, but it was all in vain. His body flew towards the giant sword and sank into it, disappearing. Buzz! The huge sword buzzed, and the entire valley shook violently. Lu Ming flew out of the deep pit and stood in the air to observe from a distance. The huge sword trembled more and more violently. Finally, it rushed out of the ground and flew into the sky. After flying in a circle in the sky, it directly rushed towards Luo Xiang. When it got close to Luo Xiang's body, it became smaller and smaller, and then it disappeared into Luo Xiang's glabella. At this moment, Luo Xiang opened his eyes, and a powerful aura emanated from him. Great sage, great perfection. Lu Ming was secretly shocked. Luo Xiang's cultivation base had also reached the great saint in the great perfection realm. It seemed that Luo Xiang had also obtained a great opportunity because of this giant sword. Moreover, Lu Ming discovered that Luo Xiang's spirit body was extraordinary. It had actually evolved to the level of a medium-grade heaven spirit body. When Lu Ming first met Luo Xiang, his spirit body was only a low-grade earth spirit body. 15 years of nurturing the sword soul. It's indeed not simple, Lu Ming muttered. He had long felt that Luo Xiang wasn't simple. He had already mastered the law of speed, which was one of the King Path laws. Now that his cultivation had reached the great saint perfection, he had obtained that giant sword and cultivated the wonderful sword soul. His combat power was absolutely terrifying. Luo Xiang stood up and looked at Lu Ming with a smile on his face. Lu Ming, long time no see. One didn't expect to meet you here after we parted at the Azure continent. I didn't expect to see you here either. What's going on between you two? Also, your master, he... At this point, Lu Ming stopped and sighed. My master, he must have fallen. Luo Xiang said with a sad look in his eyes. He seems to have lost his intelligence. His soul is no longer there. Lu Ming nodded. His soul was destroyed by the sword fiend. Lu Ming, let's leave this place first. We'll talk as we walk. Luo Xiang said. All right. Lu Ming nodded. Then, together with Luo Xiang, they soared into the sky and flew up to the abyss. They then flew towards the exit of the sword tomb. They didn't encounter any accidents along the way. Soon, they flew out of the sword tomb and into the distance. On the way, Luo Xiang told Lu Ming about their encounter after they escaped from the Azure region. After they escaped from the Tsang state, they did not reach the ancient Moon Holy Land. Instead, they followed a caravan and took a teleportation array to the vicinity of the Tai sword tomb. Later on, Luo Xiang followed the life and death sword sect leader to the sword tomb to cultivate and accidentally stumbled into this abyss. The sword fiend had been planning to attract other martial artists here. He wanted to use the blood of the other martial artists as a sacrifice to the sword. With the energy of the sword source, he would be able to break through to the martial emperor realm in one go. Therefore, the sword fiend split out the soul of the sword fiend and destroyed the soul of the life and death sword sect leader, controlling him. Because Luo Xiang had a sword soul, he had the protection of that huge sword. Moreover, Luo Xiang cultivated a sword soul, which was used to destroy the soul of the sword fiend. So previously, sword fiend thought that Luo Xiang had died, but in fact, Luo Xiang didn't die. Instead, he formed a connection with the giant sword. However, with his strength alone, it was impossible for him to be the sword fiend's opponent. In the end, the Celestial Emperor's sword appeared and exploded with a strong power to attract the sword fiend. Only then did Luo Xiang take action, cooperating with the giant sword to attack the sword fiend. Lu Ming came to a realization and finally understood the cause and effect. Luo Xiang could also be considered to have profited from this misfortune and obtained a great fortuitous encounter. Unfortunately, the death of the life and death sword sect master made him quite sad. The two of them flew more than 100,000 miles away and landed on a mountain peak. Lu Ming summoned Qiu Yu from the mountain and river diagram. Qiu Yu had just come out and was very surprised. Lu Ming explained what had happened earlier. You're tuning in to the Passion Pages YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.